What a hunk of a man that is.
Gorgeous, isn't he?
I'm not hearing anything. Yeah.
I'm going to mute myself.
And we can talk?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, welcome to the Corgi Dome and welcome to the live stream that dares to wonder, what on earth am I doing here? Greetings and salutations, this is Hugh Jarsz. Tonight we're following on from last week's stream about men's health by having a look at women's health. I figure that proves we appeal to at least most of the human race, but not the Klingons, stuff those guys. If you don't understand the importance of women in our society and dare to say so out loud, be prepared to be pummeled into the ground by some angry, overweight, black-clad people from Sydney University. Personally, I do understand the supreme importance of women in our society. For most of us, that starts with our mothers, who, with a little help from dad, do all the hard work in creating us in the first place. It could also mean sisters, aunts, cousins, and grandmothers, or just friends. In fact, I would say for the majority of people, the first woman in their lives to face health issues will be one or both of your grandmothers. It was for me. So tonight, we'll look at the conditions that most commonly affect women. All the ones we looked at last week, except for prostate cancer, affect women as well. But because of the different biology, women also suffer from breast cancer, ovarian and cervical cancer, pregnancy health. Well, they don't suffer from that, but that's a concern, and depression and anxiety. We'll be looking at each of these in turn tonight. So first, a disclaimer, I'm not a medical professional and neither are my guests. We'll tell you about our experiences in this area and perhaps what doctors told us. But we might have misunderstood those doctors or not understood what they said in a way that a medical professional would understand it. So do not deduce or take any advice from us on medical issues other than us telling you to consult your doctor if you have any questions. For any situation you might find yourself facing, don't listen to anything that we say. Only listen to the medical professionals that you consult for your treatment. We're not qualified to help you with medical issues.
Hell no.
Except for Dr. Chuck, who might be in the chat like he was last week. And I hope he's not there right now, but hopefully you will be later. And as we're talking about women's issues, I feel completely unqualified as a man, so I invited some women along to make sure we get a women's perspective on women's issues. So joining me on the panel tonight are Eileen Dover. Hello, Eileen.
Good evening, Hugh. How are you?
All right. Tell us a little bit about you.
Well, I'm older than 40 and younger than 90. And I have 2 living children and 4 deceased children. So that's an interesting story. Just muddling along through life in suburban Australia.
Okay, thank you for that. We'll delve more into that story later, I'm sure. Also on the panel we have the Queen Mod herself. All hail the Queen. It's Mippet69. Are you there, Mippet?
Hello.
Hello, she's...
Won't unmute.
Oh, there you are.
There we go. Hello, am I...
And after that intro too.
My computer's having a bit of a I'm good. How are you, Hugh?
All right. Tell the audience a little bit about yourself.
I'm kind of crazy. I tell all these boys what to do in various servers to keep all these buggers in line. I do a lot with NASA Black Site and the EIE network. So, yeah, go pick us out. And we have lots of fun.
Awesome. We're going to have Mistress Magda here, so that we weren't all Aussies, but unfortunately she's got the lurgy in the throat and has lost her voice. So we're going to make do with an honorary woman, CypherZero.
Yeah, I'm wearing my dress for it too. And actually reheating cookies that had gotten soft. So I stuck them in the oven to reheat them. Like you put them in... Pro tip, if you ever get soft cookies, just throw them in the oven on about 60 degrees for 15 minutes. And they'll come out nice and crisp again.
Oh, I thought you said you throw your breasts in the oven.
Well, that's only to dry them out, and they're not actually moist at the moment, so just the cookies. I am wearing a dress though.
You're wearing something? I'm naked. I mean,
Well, I
it's
mean,
a
I'm wearing a
requirement
dress.
for
I didn't
NASA
say anything
Black
about
Site to be naked.
pants, did I?
Not that we're NASA Black Site
No,
here. We're
that's-
just
no.
in the Corgi Dome. So.
Well, it's pants off Thursday in the Corgi Dome.
Towels are also
Well,
acceptable.
Yeah, I missed that. Sorry. What was that?
Towels are also acceptable. Just a towel. Try it in
Oh, a
summer
towel.
when it's really
Right.
hot. Yeah, towels are awesome.
Yeah, it is a bit steamy at the moment. I guess it isn't
Getting warmer.
You people further south, but for Eileen and me up here in Queensland, it's getting steamy. That's for sure.
Yeah, it was good today. I got burned.
Well, there's a health issue there,
We
but that
had
applies
really
to everyone.
nice.
Remember?
Yeah, we've had. It's been really warm and beautiful the last couple of days, and then all of a sudden today it comes in and it's cold.
Oh,
I don't like it. I hate the cold. I want my summer back.
Well, come to
I'll swap
Queensland.
it.
We got plenty
I
of it.
love the cold.
So let's see who's in the chat. We got OK Boomer. How are you, mate? Eileen's in there, of course. Mark Short. Hey, Mark. Pip, Pie Parrot. How are you? Little Wolf is there sniffing around, looking for a coolie, I bet. And that looks like it at the moment. We've got 13 watching. Surely there's more women around than that.
More will come.
I hope so. Yeah, they tend to come in about after 8 o'clock or so. So
Yep.
we'll see how we go. It's just a time zone thing, I guess. Let's hopefully we won't have too many idiots show
Yeah,
up.
bloody
in the
Queenslanders
chat
need to
too.
get in sync with the rest of us.
Who was that, sorry?
Bloody Queenslanders need to get in sync with the rest of us.
No, you
No,
moved
bugger
away
off.
from sync. We're on Eastern
Hey,
Standard Time.
we're in the
Standard
majority
Time
here.
region.
There's 5 states to 1 on this.
No, you're not. Western Australia doesn't do it either.
Oh, don't they?
No.
God damn it. Okay, 4 to
the
1. We're still in the
Territory,
majority.
not
Ha! Numbers.
No. No, bugger off.
That's just a majority of idiots, that's all.
Well, you guys have probably got more flat earthers than we do. But anyway.
Mitchell from Australia isn't from Queensland.
No, I
And
don't know
Ross,
where he
Anyway.
is.
Ross Fletcher isn't either.
No. Thatcher, I mean, yeah.
Thatcher, sorry.
Yes.
Yeah.
So
Ross
let's
Stewart.
look.
Yeah.
Let's look at this first slide. This is the same slide we saw last week, which shows, if you make it full screen, mate, shows the deaths in Australia, the 5 top causes of deaths in Australia over a course of a year. Hello, Glenn Collins. I see a new name in the chat. And so men are on the left and women are on the right, so you can see the comparison for the various maladies. I'm not seeing it full screen yet.
As a delay on the stream too.
Yeah. Oh, okay. I was looking it up in my file system, but there we go. All right, now I can see the numbers. So, yeah, men really take the brunt of coronary heart disease, but it's also a big factor for women as well. Women have a lot of more issue with dementia or death due to dementia and Alzheimer's, probably because they live a little bit longer, so it's more likely to happen. Cerebrovascular disease is about the same for both. Lung cancer, a little more for men because they probably smoke a bit more, I guess, and about the same for chronic obstructive pulmonary disease, which I would have thought was, oh, well, okay, that's blood clots in the lungs rather than in the heart.
Yeah.
Either way, it's all not very nice stuff. We covered a lot of that last week, so we were focusing on men, but they apply to women too, apart from prostate cancer, of course. But yeah, it was. It's the message was get to your doctor and listen to what the doctor says. Give up things like smoking and excessive drinking, and try and eat a bit better. Every little step you take is going to be a step in the right direction, and you want to do that. Your doctor can advise you on what you need to do, and then it's up to you. And that's the hard bit, the fact that it's up to you. I took the decision to lose some weight last year, and I've lost nearly 15 kilos. And at one point, I'd lost nearly 20. And
Nice.
It's just a decision away, really. And then you just got to live by that decision. And
Yeah, I've lost
yes,
a few kilos.
fell off the wagon a bit, but I can get back on it because I know it works, what I'm doing. And it's the same for these health risks. You can reduce those risks by just doing a few simple changes to what your life is. So you should do that if you can. See your doctor first, though. Don't take my advice. See the doctor.
Hell no. Yep. No, our advice is not to be followed, just as a general guideline only.
Other than going to your doctor.
Yeah, like follow that advice for sure.
I was just,
Yes.
I was just
Go,
going to agree with that.
Yeah.
Yeah, the best advice that I can give is go find professional medical advice, because you can't beat that.
Yeah.
Because you'll get the full story if you go and see your doctor.
I'm sorry, I just have
Well.
to comment on Mark Short in the comments. So no fun, I have a smoke hanging out of my mouth and a rum in my hand. Well done, Mark. I applaud you.
One rum's not going to do any damage. Having several packs of smokes a day is an issue. And you don't need it. It's a lot of money. And it just, you have saw me, if you watched the stream last week, you would have seen the difference in a pig's lung between one that was affected by cigarette smoke and one that wasn't. If that doesn't turn you off smoking, nothing will. And I also have a friend who just had 25% of his lungs taken away because of lung cancer. So these are things you just don't want to go through. But that's up to you. None of this, we're not forcing anyone to do anything, because we can't, for a start. And second of all, it's up to you. If you want to live a healthier life and live longer and be around for your grandchildren and your family and whoever else you care about, then perhaps you need to make some changes. But in the end, it's up to you. And it's not going to happen without you getting into it. So let's move on to the main health risks that are specific for women. And the first one we're going to have a look at is breast cancer. Now, breast cancer actually, especially if you watch Archer, you'll know that breast cancer can occur in men, but it's much rarer. It's relatively common in women, and that's why women get mammograms on a regular basis. And I'm sure the women would agree that they should do that, even though it's horrible.
Yeah, I've never had one.
Absolutely. Yep, absolutely.
Well,
Tell us what it's like, Nip.
Wow. Well, my auntie is actually a breast cancer survivor. She religiously did breast self-examinations in the shower once a month. She made it a part of her routine. So, I do it on the first to know your body, and so you'll be the first one to know the differences. And yeah, so my auntie found a lump in her breast during a breast self-exam. She was about 50 then. She went straight to her doctor, who sent her to an oncologist. She had a chemotherapy. Then she had a course of radiation. And that shrunk the cancer to a size that could then be removed by surgery. So she had a mastectomy. And after that, she got the all clear from her oncologist. But 21 years later, she found a lump in her left breast. And it was again during a BSE in the shower. And she immediately went to her doctor that got her straight onto the oncologist again. She didn't worry about the chemo. She went straight for radiation and had a second mastectomy. So, but she has beaten it. She beat it twice. And after 4 years, I'm just grateful to be able to say that my auntie is a cancer survivor. And it's great.
Awesome. So how often should women go for a mammogram?
Depending on your family medical history, of course, if you've got it in the family, I actually started having mammograms at about 43, which is quite young. At least I think it's about 45 you can start having them from. And it's about every 2 to 3 years. But I actually have mine yearly because of my family medical history. But it is a brilliant tool for the early detection, because mammograms, they're a lifesaver, and now they've become a part of women's health. Whereas back in the day, it was breast self-examination, go see the doctor, hope for the best. So, I'm very grateful to the medical profession.
Yep, that's good to hear, Nip. And it's good that you're looking after yourself. That's great to hear, that you're getting regular checks and things. I just want to acknowledge what Boomer said in the chat, he said, your number's up when the doctor says you can drink and smoke as much as you want. That actually happened to my grandfather. He was a smoker for most of his life. And about the age of 70, the doctor said, give up smoking. And he did. But he was coughing and spluttering, and the withdrawal symptoms were taking a toll on him. The doctor said, no, take it up again, because the withdrawal symptoms are hurting you more than the smoking was. So, and at that age, there just wasn't much time left. He died at 72. So, yeah. Anyway, that's that story. Oh, my grandmother had breast cancer too. I didn't even know. It was when I was a child that she had it, and I was never even told about it. I found out later. It's a very common disease in women. So, if you're a woman, make sure you go and get that checked. And if you're a man, keep it in the back of your mind. It might happen to you as well, especially if you're like me.
Well, I was just going to say, on average in Australia, 53 people will be diagnosed with breast cancer every day.
Jeez.
The number of women and men being diagnosed is with breast cancer in Australia is increasing, but the number of deaths from breast cancer is decreasing because we're getting the help earlier.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, getting it early is a big thing. Cancer, it's the most common cancer diagnosed in Australian women, and it actually accounts for about 29% of all cancers in Australian women. And that was in 2019.
Nearly a third.
Yeah.
That's a big chunk. Yeah.
It's scary, isn't it?
So,
and
go
on. I was just going to say the risks of being diagnosed before the age of 85 is a 1 in 7 chance for women and a 1 in 675 for men. But Australia has one of the best cancer survival rates in the world. So I think we're pretty lucky to be out here, to be honest.
I'm assuming a lot of that's because we do a lot of early screening.
Yes. Yeah, now, like, with our health system, you actually, it's fantastic. It's all under Medicare, and, you can't ask for a better, there is no reason not to have it done. So, yeah, my advice is just do your best.
Yeah.
Younger women who are premenopausal actually have poorer survival outcome than older women. But, yeah, it's only generally. It's because premenopausal will actually will grow faster in a younger person.
Oh, okay. I didn't know that. Yeah. Well, we have a rather confronting video which Mip found for us. If you are a woman and you're not getting regular screening, so stand by, Eileen, this will definitely convince you to go and get that screening so we pick it up early if it ever happens. So graphic image warning, this is rather horrific to some extent. If you don't want to see an advanced breast cancer, which is not a pretty sight, you might want to walk away for a little while we show it. I think it's only 3 or 4 minutes, so let's roll video 1. People are suitably warned.
Hey guys, this is your friend Dr. Singh, and today I want to talk about something really important which I have been noticing in recent years. Even though I have lived in this country for almost 2 decades in the United States, I still see patients who are very well educated but have been ignoring their health condition. So my today's discussion is about the breast cancer.
I haven't got, I've only got the chat open.
Any woman, if you see anything concerning in your
okay, I've got everything closed except the
talk to somebody
Jitsi meat.
Assess, examine, and who can help you. I have a few patients who have been in their
I don't have the YouTube stream up, is what I mean.
Very well educated with good jobs. They found something in their breast, but they kept ignoring it to the point where it became untreatable. I have a couple of these pictures for you to see, and you decide yourself, like if you should let it get this far in your health, in your concern, because the recent trend of changing the treatment methods, I would say, for herbal treatment, oils and lotion and some medication, they work on some things but not on cancer. And for cancer, the ideal treatment is to get in touch with your doctor as soon as possible, your surgeon as soon as possible, and oncologist too. If you need anything done, that can be done as soon as possible. If you sit on it for a long time, it's not going to turn out good for anyone, for you, your family, or anybody else. So look at these pictures, think about these things, and if you have any concern about your breast, any lesion, any mass, anything which does not look normal, any discharge which should not be there, if you're not pregnant, there should not be any drainage or discharge. If it looks different than milk, if it looks blood, red, pink, green, yellow, it is not normal. Talk to your doctor. And if you see any lesion, any changes in the skin, talk to your doctor. If you feel anything, talk to your doctor. It's very important. But these are two pictures I have from the patients, which are very unfortunate. So I want you to look them carefully. Both of them are breast cancer, very advanced, involving the part of the chest wall, and they just let it go. Even though they knew what was in there, they were trying to treat it with the herbal medication and treatment and all this stuff. So let's look at those pictures and then we'll talk more. So now you have looked at those pictures. What do you think? Are you gonna let it get that far? Because the stage they presented to me, they were way far advanced. We tried to help them, but it was
Cypher, can you turn him up for us?
we could help them. They underwent surgery, the whole breast was taken out. They initially refused chemotherapy or any other treatment. Eventually they agreed, but it was already too late in the game. So all the ladies out there, take care of yourself. It's your health. Don't ignore anything. It is very important. If you can't take care of yourself, nobody else is going to be able to take care of you. So if you have any questions or any concern, any issues, if anything we can do to help you, call me, email me, text me, send me a message. I'll be happy to help you.
Yeah, so those are some very confronting images that the woman who he took those photos of left it and didn't have it checked and just let it grew to that point. I can't imagine anyone had let it do that, but apparently she did. And it just shows how horrific breast cancer can be, and I hope she survived. Who knows? But if it doesn't make you go out and get checked, I don't know what else would. What would, you know?
Exactly.
Mm.
Exactly.
Yeah, that was that looked painful too. I can't imagine what that would have felt like.
Yeah, the stats are blowing my brain as well, that in 2019, an average of 8 people a day are dying from breast cancer.
Mm. Yeah, go and get
You know,
checked.
it's just-
Like everyone.
It
you feel
just
something
blows
weird.
your mind. Yeah.
Yep.
I can't stress that enough personally.
And Eileen, how does that make you feel as someone who hasn't had the mammogram before?
Well, it's interesting. I was never against having one. My doctor has
No.
just never actually, it's like I have no family history of it and I would get breast checks done at the doctor, but just I've never had an actual mammogram. And I'm like, maybe I should actually go and insist. I I am one of the younger premenopausal. So as Muppet said, it will grow faster if I got it. So yeah, maybe I should do it. It's just never come up that they have said that you need to get one. I've had, other things instead that have been looked at and not that one.
Are you over 45?
Yes.
Okay.
A little bit.
Well, Mifford said
So,
earlier
yes.
that that's when you
Yes.
should start to have it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
With no
So,
family
and
history, though, I can understand why the doctor's probably been a bit reluctant.
Yeah. So, but it's probably time that I go, yeah, you know what? Okay, let's get into this and get it sorted. So.
Yeah. Well, about 79% of new cases are in women aged over 50, over the age of 50.
Rightio.
And the average age of first diagnosis is 61. So it's really important to.
Thank you, though. I appreciate it,
Yeah.
and I will get on that. Next time I go see my doctor, it'll be one of the requests. I usually have an annual, because I actually am in fairly good health, and I go and see a doctor once a year to get prescriptions that I need for drugs that I take, and say what else needs checking. And the colonoscopy, endoscopy is every 5 years, and it's what else gets checked. All the I've had the pap smears and all that stuff, but the mammogram, it's do I need one yet? And they're like, well, no, not yet. So, but now it's probably time.
All right, then. So we might move on to the second video, which is a little bit more positive, a bit more upbeat.
The body leads to the progression of breast cancer in mice. This finding could open the door to new treatments for early-stage breast cancer that stabilize the production of this pivotal molecule. Nearly 1/3 of newly diagnosed breast cancers in the U.S. are early-stage lesions. Though technically precancerous, about 40% of these lesions could progress to invasive cancers. Researchers don't yet fully understand what drives these insidious formations, but various studies have reported a common link between cancer risk factors related to lifestyle, such as a high-fat diet, high alcohol consumption, and low physical activity, and abnormal production of nitric oxide. Normally, physiological stress triggers the production of large amounts of nitric oxide. This activates tissue-specific functions of neurons, muscles, immune cells, blood vessels, and other specialized cells. Under unstressed conditions, however, many different types of cells produce the molecule at the basal level to maintain tissue equilibrium. In the current study, researchers demonstrated that during cancer progression of breast cells, nitric oxide levels in fact plummet due to the reduction of the functionality of the enzyme that produces nitric oxide. To confirm how that process works out in a live animal, the team artificially blocked the mammary glands of healthy developing mice from producing nitric oxide. This suppression led to multiple precancerous lesions because of an upswing in tumor-inducing proteins, independently of causing mutations. In contrast, the researchers introduced sepiapterin into precancerous cells. Sepiapterin is a naturally occurring compound that facilitates the function of nitric oxide-producing enzymes. After treatment, nitric oxide levels normalized, the expression of tumor-inducing proteins decreased, and precancerous cells started acting like normal cells. This finding strongly suggests that sepiapterin could be a powerful treatment for the hundreds of thousands of women diagnosed with early-stage breast cancer each year. The researchers are currently testing whether sepiapterin could also be used for breast cancer prevention among people susceptible to developing this disease, though realizing that potential will require more work. Delivered wholesale, sepiapterin could affect other tissues and organs which might give cancer an advantage. To eliminate this possibility, the team is currently developing a nanoparticle system for delivering sepiapterin payloads specifically to precancerous lesions in the breast.
Interesting.
Yeah, so if you do have breast cancer, there's some hope there that they're coming up with treatments that might actually work, even though they've got some side effects. But I thought it was interesting that they could figure out ways of making sure the side effects weren't too bad. So that's a good news, I would have thought.
It's definitely a ray of hope for cancer patients. Absolutely.
All right, so let's move on to the third breast cancer video, our last one from breast cancer. This is about breast cancer survivor stories. So it'll be interesting to hear from those who've had it and have survived. And the sound is very terrible on this one, but if you listen closely, you'll hear a good story.
I was diagnosed with breast cancer at initial stage 6 months back. I just want to share it was a normal day for me, working in a hospital, taking my patients, looking after my patients, and I realized there was a lump I felt on my right breast.
As it happens with every patient, once a disease gets diagnosed, you wonder which hospital to go to, which doctor should you consult. So I was given a very good reference of Manipal Hospital and the doctors out there. So the treatment happened here, and I was very, very grateful to the empathetic attitude shown by the doctors out here, the staff here.
First time ever I had seen a doctor who was Dr. Mohanty, who sat with me. He discussed about my case. He gave me ample of time to go through my emotional status and how we are going to go through the process of radiation, because I was really afraid of the side effects.
Believe me, I was alone. I didn't tell my parents, my husband, my kid, no one. I had my doctor with me, my MS of the hospital, she was there. And when he said, I just looked at him and no reaction. And I just asked him, so what's the next step? That is all I asked. And he suggested get a PET-CT done, MRI done, gave me the numbers, he gave me how to go about it. And got the needful done. Yes, it was malignant.
मैं आपको दो चीजें बताना चाहती हूँ कि एक तो पेशेंट और दूसरा डॉक्टर. हमारे डॉक्टर्स एंजल हैं. जिस वक्त वो कमरे से बाहर निकलते हैं, लगता है कि 60% डिजीज जो है वो वहीं पे खत्म हो गया. वो 2 मिनट रुक के पूछते हैं क्या हुआ, हैंडशेक करते हैं और हमारे में वो कॉन्फिडेंस भर देते हैं जो कि हमारी स्टेट ऑफ माइंड में होना चाहिए.
Now. Okay. Back to you.
All right. Finish? Yep.
Yep.
Yeah, so it's always good to hear stories of survivors, and they're always an inspiring story to hear, because it's a tough thing to fight any sort of cancer. It's a long journey, and I've watched my dad go through it, and I'm sure everyone else has had at least one family member at some point having to go through it.
My aunt died of lung cancer
those videos
a few years ago. Left 3 young girls. It wasn't breast cancer, but lung cancer. But yeah, cancer is in general can eat a bag of leprous PPs.
Jungly dicks. Yeah.
Jungly dicks, yeah. Eat a dick jungle, yeah.
Yeah. There was something I was going to say, but I've forgotten it already. I hate it when that happens.
Sorry about that. Made you think of leprous dicks.
Well, I was thinking of dicks, yes. That's always a bit of a problem. But yeah, breast cancer is probably one of the most common things that affect women, as Mippet told us. Really glad that so many survive now because they get early screening. So that's great. Oh, the thing I was going to say is a lot of these videos tonight are going to be Indian focused, you might say, because we're only using Creative Commons videos to avoid copyright issues. So, and the only ones that seem to be available are either in Spanish or are Indian ones. So, but the Indians and Asians in general tend to be the majority of the medical profession as it is. I know in Australia at least 10%, 20% of the medical profession are Asian. So it tends to be a specialty of theirs, which is really good. It's good that we have specialties in our society. So, hang on. Right. I invited Pip to join us, but she's a bit busy right now. But so it's just going to be us for now on. All right, so we might move on to, if no one's got anything else to say about breast cancer.
No, just get yourself checked. Don't leave it.
And we'll be saying that all through the night.
Yeah.
And one thing is, if you find something and you go to your doctor and he doesn't give you an answer what you want, tell him you want a mammogram, you want to be screened, because, you know, it's just so much better mortality rate the quicker you get it. And mammograms are one of the best ways.
And if you find something and you're not sure what it is, and it doesn't really matter whether it's breast cancer related or something else, tell your doctor. It's much better. They'd rather have a look and find it's nothing than not find something that's important, if you know what I mean. I think I said that right with all the negatives. It's hard to say properly. Yeah. The finding out, having a look and finding out it's nothing is the best possible result.
Agreed.
Having a look and finding something that needs to be checked, that's not the best possible result, but it's much better than not looking at all. So make sure you do, talk to your doctor about these things. Don't be embarrassed. That's their job. They get to deal with all sorts of things all the time. They know what it's all about. You can talk to doctors about anything. I'm particularly responding to what Mark's typed in the chat. And if you don't think your doctor's really looking after you, because like any other profession, there's varying levels of competency among doctors, go get a second opinion. It's your health, and don't put it all in the hands of one person if you don't trust that person 100%. Find someone you do trust 100%.
Or ask to see a specialist. I want a referral to a specialist for this, and your doctor will do it.
Yeah. It's very rare that they won't.
Yeah, it will cost you a little bit of money because they're a specialist after all. But and like I said, the very worst thing that can happen, the very best thing that can happen is the specialist has a look and it's nothing. So that's great. You might have spent I spent $130 on my specialist for my prostate MRI. I haven't heard back from him yet, but I'm taking that as a good sign, because if it was a problem, he would have got back to me straight away. So for peace of mind, I spent $130. Whoopee-doo, I think that's good value for money.
Absolutely.
And yes, man boobs are real. I'm Hugh Jarsz. I've got boobs like crazy. So I know what you're talking about, Mark. And yes, I think the larger your breasts are, even as a man, the higher your risk. So get them checked as well if you need to, if you feel something that shouldn't be there. I mean, even Sterling Archer got breast cancer. So I hope people know who I'm talking about.
Yes, right, I do.
Yeah. And based by the statistics, you said it's far more common in women than it is in men, of course. And, that's fair enough. But that doesn't mean it doesn't happen to men as well.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay, so let's move on to something that's very much specific to women. It's pregnancy health. So I thought we'd start off having a look at a video that talks about, when you want to become pregnant as a woman, what sort of things that you need to do. And this is a very short video, so it doesn't really go into a lot of depth, but it gives you a few ideas that we might be able to talk about.
When you're thinking about getting pregnant, you want to be in the healthiest state possible. So it's important to go and visit your physician or your midwife to plan on how to have a healthy pregnancy.
We can help you optimize any health conditions that you may have. We can talk about getting your body healthy before starting a pregnancy.
And then even just mentally and emotionally preparing to make room for a child in your life.
During that visit, we can have multiple conversations, making sure that you are as healthy as possible prior to conception.
My doctor told me in order to prepare for getting pregnant to start implementing some more regular exercises in my routine.
So physical activity is very important. The healthier you are prior to conception, the better it is for the outcome of the pregnancy. It's very key that you maintain a well-balanced diet.
I made quite a few changes with my diet. I started making sure I brought more fruits and vegetables with me to work so that I was eating better during the day.
So lean meats, healthy fruits and vegetables, and nutritional development as well too with prenatal vitamins and ensuring that those are on board at least 3 months prior to conception.
But don't worry if you haven't done this and you find yourself pregnant and it wasn't a planned pregnancy. It's okay.
We're happy to work with you, and we'll get you started on the right path.
And we're back.
All right, ladies, I'm going to have to turn it over to you because, yeah, this is something that's very much a women's perspective.
Well, do you want to ask some questions?
Well, tell me about your pregnancy experiences.
Okay, well, as indicated early on, I have had 6 pregnancies and have 2 living children. To complicate matters, I have epilepsy, and at age 18 was told, you will never have children. And the drugs I was on caused babies to die in utero. And I was like, oh, that's okay. At 18, I didn't really care. But then when I met my future husband, I warned him.
Ben.
I said, Ben, yes. I said, Ben, I'm probably never going to have children. And you need to know this before you commit to marrying me, because this may, if you want to have children, I might not be the right woman. So, that was a bit of a shock. But he said, in the end, I think I want to be with you over being with someone else. So if we have a child-free life, that's what we'll expect, and maybe we can do a foreign adoption. Now, so later on, because of my epilepsy and because of the issues, I signed up to Monash University's experimental study on epileptic women being able to have children. They'd obviously got some funding, and they were doing a study, and they needed guinea pigs. And I said, well, as long as you're not going to inject me with anything carcinogenic or anything like that, I'm more than happy to help. Because if what I do now helps the next generation of women be able to have what I can't, then I'm happy to do it. So we joined the program, and they were trying things, and I would get pregnant, and then I'd get to around about 12, 13, 14 weeks and suffer a miscarriage. And that happened 4 times. And they're messy. Miscarriages are not pretty. Fortunately for me, mine all happened at home, and I did not need to go to hospital to have curettes. I didn't need further clean-outs. I didn't get fever. I had to monitor my temperature and make sure I didn't get a fever, because if I did, that meant I had an infection and there was still something left, and I'd have to go back. And anyway, luckily it didn't work out that I needed that kind of stuff. But it's still horrendous, because you're like, oh, I'm pregnant. Crap, I'm not. Or you're terrified, and I don't know if this sounds vulgar. I don't know what I'm allowed to say or not say, but you go to the toilet and you look at your underpants. Oh God, there's blood. Okay, so that's the end of that. And and then the pain starts, and you just know, okay, well, there goes another one. And it's messy. So then eventually I said to Monash Uni, I think I'm done. I don't know that I really want to keep going with this. I don't think we've got this. Obviously, the solution isn't happening, and I've now lost 4 babies, and that's taking a toll on my mental health and my health. And they said, no worries. And then about 2 months, 3 months later, I get a call from Monash Uni going, we think we might have isolated the problem. What's happening is they had done tests with mice, and they said, what's happening is the drugs that you're on for your seizures are causing clotting. What happens is the clotting causes the placenta to come away from the uterus, which kills the baby. And we think we can stop this with, would you believe it, low dose aspirin. So the miracle drug to make an epileptic woman who was on sodium valproate, which is what I was on, to be able to have a baby was low dose aspirin. So I said, do you think when we understand if you say no, do you think you'd like to have another go? And I said, let me get back to you. I'm going to talk to my husband because we've said no. And I had to talk to him and he said, it's up to you. This is, your body. You have to go through this. Yes, I'd love to have a child, but I'm still willing because you could do a China adoption. We were at the right age by then. We could do a China adoption. And we thought maybe we would adopt a baby from China. And he says, I said, all right, I'll do one more go. Well, I did the low dose aspirin for the period of time and kept on everything else, did all the things. And then I fell pregnant. I had to have testing every month. And we get to the end, and here I am at 7 months pregnant going, oh, crap, I think we're going to have a baby. We probably better do something about this. So all the way through, I kept thinking, it's all right, I'm just going to go to the toilet one day and it's going to be a mess and I'm going to lose it again. And so anyway, then in early 2003, little Flip Dover was born. And they were still very concerned because they said, just because we now can give you the ability to have a baby still doesn't mean you should, because we don't know what side effects are going to happen to this baby. Maybe we did the wrong thing. Maybe we shouldn't be trying to save them. Maybe there's going to be all these other side effects from the drugs to the baby. So they monitored him for 7 years. And as you know, he's fit, he's strong, he's an Australian representative athlete. It ended up working out quite well. So he was a success for that program. And then I went on and I had them, the next baby, stayed on the program, did the same thing again. And we ended up with a little girl called Keel Dover, who unfortunately inherited epilepsy. But here's the best thing. Because I did what I did and I signed up as a guinea pig to Monash University, they have made such strides that they even have a new drug now called Keppra, and she is on that. And her neurologist said to her, well, you can thank your mother for this, because her signing up and saying, yes, I'm willing to be a guinea pig, has meant that women like you will not have to go through what she went through. And so I was really crying and proud of the fact that not only did I actually get lucky and I managed to have these two miracle children, that I honestly, all the way through this pregnancy, I went, I'm so sure something's going to go wrong and they're going to go. I'm going to lose them. And I think we got our eldest home. We got him home, and I think we sat there. We got him home from the hospital, looked at each other, and went, "What do we do now?" We had no idea. We did not prepare. We really did not prepare. It's like, oh, I suppose we better get a car seat. Oh well, all right, we're going to get a car seat, and we just did not think, because I think it's a conditioning that you do in order to protect yourself. I've lost 4 babies. I know I'm going to lose the next one. I'm just going to lose it. I'm going to lose it. I'm going to lose it. I'm not going to allow myself to fall in love or acknowledge that I'm pregnant, because it's going to go. And if I open myself up to love this thing that's inside of me, I'm just going to get hurt. And so, when he was born, and I remember the very, very next day, I had seizures after he was born. And so they put me on a crap ton of morphine and stuff. And I remember waking up in the hospital, and here's my maternal instinct kicking in. And my first thing I could hear was a baby crying. And all I could think of was, oh, would somebody shut that thing up? And there's a baby crying, shut it up. And then I looked over, and there he was. And I said, oh, that's my baby. I think I'm supposed to do something when a baby cries, but I don't know what to do. So so my pregnancy health experiences are not typical, but I think they're important, because people need to know that, it's actually okay to be pregnant and sit there and go, I don't even know if I am, or, I'm not really looking forward to this baby because I really don't know what's going to happen. And But I did the right things, which was I had to keep a lot of B12 and folate super high, because that protected against things like spina bifida and neural tube defects were huge in sodium valproate users. A lot of women who'd managed to get lose babies at a little bit later on than what I did, they would have autopsies done and find that they had neural tube defects. So so that's kind of not a usual experience, but definitely I would recommend, say, you know what, don't give up. Like, I honestly never thought it would happen, and I just signed up. All right, I'll be a guinea pig. And then
how awesome is it that what you did now helps probably thousands of women
to
have babies they wouldn't have otherwise,
including my own daughter. I'm just so thrilled. And the neurologist that helped me is still in practice in Brisbane. She's almost at retirement age now, and she works with the neurologist that is looking after my daughter now. So I'm just so thrilled to think that it's come full circle. And although I'm sad that my poor girl has inherited my epilepsy, but you know what? Hey, I inherited it from someone too, so it's the way it is. That now, all those kids now who are the generation below me, they don't have to do what I did, because they've got a whole new drug that was developed out of those trials and things that I did.
Yeah, because of what you did. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's kind of those things where you think, well, I haven't achieved much in life, but wow, I did that.
Well, there's a lot of people alive today because of what you did.
Yes.
That's an amazing thing.
I know. So that's
that will continue on into the future too.
Yes. So I would like to encourage people. You know what? Sometimes being part of a study, if you're not going to be personally harmed, which I wasn't. Look, okay, I did lose 4 babies, which was not pleasant when it happened.
Very traumatic, I imagine.
It was traumatic. It was, and by the time I got to the last one, I was almost like, am I allowed to swear on this show or not?
No F or C word, but otherwise.
Oh, okay. Well,
right.
I just said F it. I'm done. I can't do this anymore. I'm just, flushing this garbage down the toilet. It's just, I don't want to do this anymore. It's a mess. I can't keep every twinge in my tummy going, oh no, oh no, oh no, oh no. It just was a wreck.
Yeah.
So that's not pleasant. And women who've had miscarriages all will understand that feeling.
I imagine the psychological impact of losing 4 babies was really significant. My wife lost 2, and it was bad enough on me, let alone her, and let alone someone like you who lost even more. So
yes, it's not fun. And for the women who lose them and then never ever have children, that's really hard, because I've been able to put that behind me by, being able to go, look at these 2 gorgeous kids I do have. For women who don't, that's a terrible thing. And often they hide it, it's a secret pain that they hide their whole lives of the babies that they lose. One of my very good friends has 5 boys, but her 4th child was a girl, and it died in utero at 21 weeks. She had to give birth. Went to the hospital. They gave her all the drugs because it didn't matter. And she had this tiny, tiny little baby girl. They named her. She had a funeral. That was now okay, so that would be 19 years ago, and I'm still welling up now.
Yeah.
Because she's still got her 5 healthy boys, but her precious, precious little baby girl that she wanted so much passed away or died before she could even take a breath. It was so sad.
It means so much to parents. Anyone who's a parent understands what you're talking about.
Yes. Yeah, all your babies are precious, but I guess she was like, oh, I'm so excited, I'm having a girl.
Yeah, especially after 5 boys.
Yeah. Yeah. Anyway, that's my my thing. I think I don't know if I have anything else really to offer in that regard.
All right then. Well, you offered enough. Thank you very much for that, telling her that story. Miffy, do you have anything? You don't have to, of course, but do you have a story to tell about your pregnancies?
Well, actually, not mine. I had 2 relatively normal pregnancies, and I got a beautiful girl and a beautiful boy, so I was happy. I didn't have to try for a third. But my daughter is a hyperovulator, which means she lets go of 3 or 4 eggs at a time. So she ended up being pregnant with twins that were non-fraternal, so they had their own little sacs each, their own placenta, and she went into labour at 25 weeks, which is
right on the border,
really pushing it, you know. So it was absolutely terrifying. She had an emergency cesarean, and the twins, they were put straight into humidity cribs, and they were 3 weeks old before Shay was even allowed to touch them, because they're so delicate. You can't touch their skin, or you know, they're so delicate, and it just, you know. And I'm so glad to say that both my beautiful grandchildren turned 5 last month, and they start school next year. So it is so exciting, and they're coming home to where I live to build a house and stay. So I'm so excited to have my grandkids in the state.
That'll be awesome.
Awesome.
Yeah, but yeah, scary stuff. You know, but I'm so glad that.
I'm pleased to hear that.
Really bad, yes. Yeah, I actually delivered a baby a couple of years ago. My neighbour across the road screamed at 5 o'clock one morning, and I knew she was pregnant, and I heard her. And I basically shot across the road in my jammies, and she was on the loo, basically starting to give birth. So I got her, you know, sort of out of the loo. We delivered Bubby, and while we were waiting for the ambos to arrive, you know, I sort of got her, but she lost so much blood, and it was really horrific and scary as shit. But little Lockie, he's doing really well too. And Mum was fine, but bit of a mad rush to hospital, that one.
Wow, what a thing to be a part of.
I know, it was amazing. It was just, you know, but scary as all hell at the time, but amazing. Yeah.
How old's Lockie now?
He's about 4. I think he'd be nearly turning 5 for school in January. Yeah, because he was just after the twins.
January's just a month after next. Yeah, it's sneaking up fast.
Oh, no. Oh,
yeah, 2020 can't nick off fast enough, I say.
Oh,
true, yes.
I agree.
Yeah. So, thank you for telling your stories about pregnancy. That's great to hear, because you know this is about women's health, and we want to hear from women. So we might go to the next video, which is about what mothers should consider when they're pregnant, so that they have a healthy baby.
Of our future generation. Child undernutrition imposes the greatest nutrition-related health burden at global level. 161 million children are stunted due to chronic malnutrition. 99 million children are underweight. 45% of child deaths are caused by child and maternal malnutrition. Sustainable Development Goal 3 aims to reduce maternal mortality as well as under 5 deaths by 2030. Both these goals are intricately linked. The state of health of an adolescent girl influences her nutritional status during pregnancy and lactation. This reflects upon the infant's health, which has some role in the health of the child as he or she grows into an adult. So what happens when maternal health goes down? A vicious cycle of ill health ensues. Pregnancy-related complications like obstructed labor, antepartum and postpartum hemorrhage, low birth weight babies and increased maternal and fetal mortality are among the outcomes. A low birth weight baby is more likely to suffer from infections, which results in poor health, leading to a greater susceptibility to infections, and so the cycle continues, resulting in a malnourished individual. As a part of a global village, we must remember that one can't thrive while the other suffers. What can be done? First, community education on nutritious diet and child feeding. Second, integration of nutrition education into smallholder farming. Third, women empowerment and proper prenatal care, promotion of breastfeeding and family planning.
All right, that's that one. So yeah, particularly at the very beginning of pregnancy, doctors recommend that you take, as Eileen mentioned earlier, you take folate for the months leading up to when you're going to conceive, because at the very beginning of the pregnancy, when the baby's sort of folding itself inside out for a few times to form its main body, and we're talking like, you know, in the first couple of weeks or so, that's where it uses that folate. So that's very important to have that folate up high, as Eileen said earlier, so that the baby can form properly in the beginning, and then it just grows from there. And then it needs to have the nutrients it needs to grow from that point on.
Yeah.
So tell me if I'm wrong, because I'm a man. I don't know these things as
No,
much
I
as
think,
women do.
yeah. I think.
Eileen, do you have cravings with any of your children?
I was going to ask about this because I'm quite curious as to what weird cravings each of you had.
Well, yes. I was because when I got pregnant, I could tell instantly, like literally the next day. Like it was less than 24 hours between conception and changes in smell and taste. I'm an absolute caffeine addict. I drink about 2 liters of coffee a day. And at the time when I was working, I was also working in the IT industry. And one of the jobs that I would do is I would, get super early, set up the day, and I would actually make heaps of coffee for all our students. It was a training facility. And instantly I would go, oh God, that's disgusting. That makes me feel sick. Coffee, the smell of coffee, I just went straight off it. And I went, must be pregnant again. And so that was it. But every one of the 6 pregnancies were different. I distinctly remember it was either the first or the second one, sugar. I could not get enough sugar. I would buy a box of Fruit Loops and just eat the damn things with nothing. Just lolly bananas. They're just pure sugar. Yeah, I just could not get enough sugar. And then the minute I'd lose the baby, I'd be like, yeah, no, don't want to eat any more sugar. So that was, and then sometimes, a pavlova. So any Aussies, we make a pavlova. The meringue. So, but what I would do is I'd get the egg whites and the sugar, mix the whole thing up, and I wouldn't cook it. I'd eat it raw.
That is so bad for you.
It's disgusting. I could not stop myself. I just needed the sugar. So I don't know whether I was deficient in carbohydrates or something, but yet I went to the supermarket shopping with my husband, who would just giggle because I would just grab this trolley and go launching down the lolly aisle. We got to the bake it yourself bread aisle. I'd look at a picture of, those flour boxes that you can then make your own bread. I'd look at a picture of bread and then go outside and throw up. So I couldn't eat bread. And yet it'd be like, yeah, but I've got like 6 boxes of Fruit Loops and a couple of packets of lolly bananas.
Sounds like a good breakfast. Yeah.
That's fantastic. Sugar, everything. But yeah, then and then no caffeine. I just couldn't stand caffeine.
Oh, civilizations are lucky that I get caffeine. Otherwise, many would have fallen by now.
Yeah,
but I'm not a woman either, so I don't understand how you managed to survive that either, Eileen. Honestly,
well, I couldn't, because I love coffee. Now, it was just almost, whether it was a survival thing, whether the baby or some hormone or something triggers to say, this is bad for you, so I'm going to make you not like it. I don't know, but I literally went off coffee, and from the minute I got pregnant with Flip, I stayed off coffee. And then, because once he was born, I actually quit work, so I stayed home. And because I never went anywhere where I was exposed to coffee and I wasn't making it, I got out of the habit. And then of course, then we had Keel, and I didn't take up coffee again until December 2005. And we were down in Melbourne. We had visited some friends. We were packing up the car, and what we would do is my husband, Ben, would fill up the petrol, and then I would go in to pay, and we were at a BP somewhere in Melbourne. Now, BP coffee is not exactly the best coffee in the world, but they had a coffee machine there. So it wasn't brilliant, but someone had just made a cup, and I walked into the BP store and my knees buckled. I almost fell over, and I went, must have. And I went over, bought one, paid for the petrol, got back in the car, and Ben said to me, is that coffee? And I said, yeah. He said, you haven't had coffee in years. I said, 2.5 years. And I sculled it down, and like from that day on, straight back to my 2 litre a day habit, and I've never gone off it. So
I'm looking at the coffee pot now going, yeah, I should probably make another one.
I love coffee. I live off it. But I, during pregnancy, couldn't stand it at all. So yeah,
interesting.
That was
weird. Yeah, hormonal change. Yeah, body chemistry's change when you get pregnant, obviously. And what about you, Mip? What sort of cravings did you have?
With my daughter, it was cocktail pickled onions, like a jar a day minimum.
And that's not something you normally eat just by itself, I'm assuming.
No, not to that extent. Definitely not. But yeah, and my son, it was chocolate. Anything chocolate, chocolate milk, chocolate ice cream, Cocoa Pops, Milo, chocolate on top of chocolate. That's all I wanted. The weird ass
different
thing
cravings
is,
with different sexes of kids. That is also really interesting. I wasn't aware of that, although it makes sense.
Yeah, my wife had the same thing, but go on, Mippet.
I was just going to say, the weird thing is my daughter is actually the chocoholic, and my son is addicted to pickled onions.
Oh, wow.
It's really like a real weird coincidence, but yes.
Well, that's what I was going to bring to this discussion, because my wife, with our first kid, she was mad on watermelon. And then for the 2 other kids, she was mad on ice, would you believe, of all things. I mean, what nutrients does ice bring? But my eldest daughter loves watermelon, and my younger kids love ice. So, yeah.
Isn't that funny? You wonder. So who knows?
It's a sample size of 2, so you know,
Yeah,
it's not a big
funny, isn't it? So
correlation. But
is it just hormones, or is it the baby saying, "Oi, mum, I want watermelon"?
It
You
could
know,
be.
or, you know, is it?
Or
You know,
both.
is it? Does the baby like watermelon because mum ate so much, or did the baby say to mum, "Oi, scarf down some watermelon"? I'd love to know. It'd be interesting.
There has to be a study on something like that, you'd imagine. I'm going to look it up after this, I think.
Well, that's why I would have loved to have a doctor involved here, but looks like Dr. Chuck didn't show up. I mean, it is late for him. He's in New Zealand, so.
And a lot of the American doctors
anyway.
I know, it's early in the morning for them.
My cravings with kids were pretty much just sugar with both, and now neither of them are particularly sugar cravers. We're certainly not a sugar-free household. Obviously, carbohydrates are a big part of an athlete's diet, so both my kids have lots of carbs. Keel is a pasta. She loves pasta, but I never did. So yeah, I don't really know. And mine didn't seem to vary with gender. Mine was just sugar.
Gotcha. Yeah, interesting.
So we might move on because, we've already done 1 hour and 10, would you believe? Given the current situation, I thought this video on pregnancy and COVID-19 was probably worthwhile showing to people. So let's have a look at this. So there's nothing.
Hi,
to do.
I'm Dr. Elena Martinez, an OBGYN specialist at Kaiser Permanente. With the world quickly evolving in response to coronavirus, many of you are concerned about COVID-19 and what you can do to keep yourself and your pregnancy healthy. COVID-19 is a new disease, and information on how the virus affects pregnant people is limited. Based on the most current information from the Center for Disease Control and Prevention, pregnant people might be at increased risk for severe illness from COVID-19 compared to non-pregnant people. Additionally, there may be an increased risk of adverse pregnancy outcomes such as preterm birth among pregnant people with COVID-19. Although some babies have tested positive for the virus shortly after birth, we don't yet know if the virus can be transmitted during pregnancy or childbirth. Pregnant women experience changes in their immune systems that make them more likely to get viral respiratory infections like the flu. But there are proactive steps that you can take to protect your health. Here's what you should always do. Wash your hands often with soap and water for at least 20 seconds. Hand sanitizer that is 60% or more alcohol-based also works when you can't get to soap and water. Avoid people who are sick with cough, fever, or shortness of breath. Wear a cloth face cover at all times in public, regardless of symptoms. Stay away from groups as much as possible and maintain social distancing of 6 feet when possible. Limit visitors to your home. Routinely clean and disinfect high-touch surfaces like doorknobs, light switches, and phones. Make sure you stock up on important and frequently used supplies when possible so that you can limit your visits to stores and pharmacies. Avoid touching your eyes, your nose, or your mouth with unwashed hands. And if this is a habit, try putting some garlic or lemon on your hands to avoid it. Cough or sneeze into a tissue or your elbow. If you use a tissue, throw it out and then wash your hands afterwards. Although these are uncertain times, following these safety precautions are an important step towards your well-being and that of your baby.
So what I found a little disturbing about that video is that that was general advice for minimising your risk of COVID-19 and not necessarily specific to a baby. And they don't really know how COVID-19 affects pregnancy. How much more data do they need? There's like 10 million cases in the world. I don't know how many of those are pregnancies, but you think they would have figured it out by now.
Yeah, I mean, they've got a lot more data now than when they did when the thing first
Certainly back in
became
April,
apparent. Yeah.
I don't know. Does anyone know anyone who had a positive?
Well, we wouldn't in Australia because there's been so few cases.
Yeah. I know people overseas that have had it, but like I haven't heard of any pregnant women having it yet. No. But
pregnant women, I guess, tend to be more hygienic anyway.
Yeah. Well, that being said, I mean that doesn't mean that we can't. The data isn't out there. I just haven't looked at it myself personally. Probably should have before this.
Yeah.
The video was from August though, so I would have thought they would have figured it out by then. But yeah.
Yeah, I know hospitals, during COVID, I've had friends and family members having babies. And so none of us have been able to go to the hospitals at all. In some cases, the partners weren't even allowed there. The women gave birth with the medical staff and the husband or partner or whatever, birth partners were not allowed in.
Well, there was a time when that was the norm because my dad said when I was being born, he was down the pub.
Well, yes. And now we seem to have gone back to that for a bit. Although, and then, families and friends, we didn't go to hospitals. Baby showers were sort of non-existent. And then when the babies would come along, you'd be a shift visiting, like you'd ring up and you'd go this. And then, and rightly so, one of my family members have said, if you're not vaccinated, you stay away. And I'm like, I respect your decision. And yes, I am up to date with vaccinations. But I understood the reticence to have unvaccinated, of normal, flu and chickenpox, mumps, all that stuff. They didn't want their baby exposed to that, so they've put up this. No, don't you come near us if you're not vaccinated. Like, yep, fair enough.
Mip, you got anything to say?
I have very strong opinions on children being vaccinated. My daughter works in the child care. She's a young child educator. She deals with kids from, sort of 2 through to about 5. And yes, it's a very hard job that they have to do. And it's especially now with COVID, the amount of precautions that have to be taken is obviously extremely high. But my daughter's had a couple of tests, like automatically went and got tests done, and they've come back negative, thank goodness. But it's in the whole child and hospital and industries, if you like, it's just being very careful and doing the right thing to.
Yeah, and idiot parents who don't get their children vaccinated don't make it easier.
Are crazy. Yeah.
Well, their only reason for doing it is conspiracy thinking, and which is, it's just nuts, really.
Exactly.
And
if they can prove that there's conspiracy, that's a different thing, but they can't.
No.
But they put everyone at risk, their own children at risk because of it.
Yep. And I mean, hey, when's the last time you went to the hospital to see the polio ward with all the iron lungs?
Yeah, or smallpox ward.
Been a few years.
Been a few years. And now I used to know a man, he was my mum's age, so, obviously it's a few years ago. I don't know if he's still around. And he had this, very withered little arm and a pronounced limp. He had one leg shorter than the other, and he'd had polio at about 5 or 6.
Yep, one
right
of my
here in
aunts
Brisbane.
had it. Yep, and I remember her. What was her name? Edna, I think. And she, no, Annie. It was and she had the crutches and the legs from. She was in an iron lung when she was a kid. Didn't die from it, obviously, but suffered from it.
Yeah, I know. And you sit there going, why would you not? Why would you willingly take a risk to put your child through that? And if they're lucky enough to live, they'll be deformed for the rest of their lives. Is it, do they want a deformed kid rather than a dead kid rather than a vaccinated?
Because the government's injecting you with chips that'll track your every movement and thought. That's the reason.
Yeah, you know what they do?
Which is stupid.
They post that to Facebook on a mobile phone that tracks their every move. I just love it. I just crack myself. Are you typing this on an iPhone 7 or something, are you? And is your location services turned on? Yes. Well, what are you whinging about? You're already being tracked every minute you move.
Yeah, they only think about it when it's convenient to them. So,
I know. That's just so funny.
Anyway, if we move on, because there's only the second one of the 4 that we're going to have a look at.
Sorry.
There's 2. I thought it was worthwhile. There's 2 particular conditions associated with pregnancy, among many others, that I think are worth having a look at. So let's have a look at preeclampsia to start with.
This is a condition that happens to some pregnant women after 20 weeks that can cause elevated blood pressure, swelling, and proteinuria. This is extremely important to be aware of because it can lead to seizures. There are some important risk factors that you see here, like first-time pregnancies, teen pregnancies, and women over 40, and also family history. It's important to have early recognition of preeclampsia, and these are some of the signs and symptoms that are screened early in pregnant women. One key fact is that it happens in later stages of pregnancy, specifically well after 20 weeks. 2 very important diagnoses: placental abruption and HELLP syndrome. You need to know these. These are complications that can happen from preeclampsia. Last but not least, there are a couple of things for treatment, and the final cure is delivery of the baby. That's it. For more tips, make sure to subscribe to our channel.
So that's pretty much that video. It didn't really explain what preeclampsia was. It's characterized by high blood pressure and signs of damage to other organs, so most often the liver and kidneys. So basically pregnancy brings on that high blood pressure. They treat it with drugs and things to reduce your blood pressure. It usually begins after about 20 weeks of pregnancy. And it's a fairly common complication of pregnancy. So it's worthwhile being aware of, especially if you're trying to get pregnant, which Mark in the chat said he was. Or not him personally, his wife.
I think if you get preeclampsia in those last days, they'll take your baby early. They'll induce you, I think. Yeah.
And the other one that I've had a few friends that have have had to deal with this because it makes it hard to conceive in the first place is endometriosis. So let's have a look at the video on that. Cypher, if we can, I think I said if we could chipmunk it and watch the first 5 minutes or so.
What is endometriosis and how common is it?
By definition, endometriosis is when the tissue resembles the lining of the uterus, called endometrium, grows outside of the uterus, outside of the cavity of the uterus, which could be on the ovaries, fallopian tubes, on the back of the uterus, or any other part of the abdomen. It has been estimated that 1 out of 10 women in this country have endometriosis.
What causes endometriosis and how does it develop?
When the women menstruate, some of the blood, instead of coming out of the vagina, through their fallopian tubes, goes to their abdomen. And these women, either they have some genetic background or some immune deficiency, and those bloods that goes from the lining of the uterus in the abdomen has cells that grows outside of the uterus and become endometriosis. That theory doesn't explain everything. For example, if the woman has endometriosis on her chest, or even in her heart or brain, how do they get endometriosis? Maybe the cells from the lining of the uterus through the lymphatic channel or blood flow goes to the lung or to the brain.
Are there different types of endometriosis?
Endometriosis could be in the body of the uterus, which is called adenomyosis, or could be outside of the uterus, called endometriosis external. Adenomyosis is called endometriosis internal, and outside of the uterus called external. But when we do surgery or we do laparoscopy, endometriosis lesions look different colors. And that also, maybe you are referring to that one. That we call them typical endometriosis implants, and we call them atypical. Also, sometimes we call them superficial endometriosis, and some of them are called deep infiltrative endometriosis.
What is the best way to diagnose endometriosis?
The best way to diagnose endometriosis is by listening to the patient and her complaint, do a thorough examination of the patients, and when you have high suspicions, do pelvic ultrasound, sometimes MRI, and the ultimate diagnosis is by laparoscopy. Laparoscopy is a surgical procedure which is done in the hospital under general anesthesia and looking inside the abdomen by a special telescope called laparoscope.
What are the symptoms with endometriosis, and do all women experience pain?
The most common problem with endometriosis is pelvic pain. This pelvic pain could be painful period, painful intercourse,
Cypher, when we're about 5 minutes in, stop
painful
it.
bowel movement, painful urination. If the patient has involvement of her bowel, sometimes the patient have blood in their stool, or if they have in their bladder, could blood in their urine. If they have in their chest, could cause chest pain, and also if there is involvement in the ovaries, could cause cyst, which is called chocolate cyst or endometrioma. Endometriosis frequently could cause infertility, and if the endometriosis involves on the chest, could cause collapse of the lungs during the menstrual cycles and chest pain.
How do you treat endometriosis?
Yeah, that should do.
Yep, go ahead.
Yeah, and endometriosis affects a lot of women and affects their fertility in particular. And yeah, I've got a friend of mine who has suffered from it for a long time, and she's had a miracle baby, thank goodness. But I don't think she's expecting any other children. That child is her world right now. And that's a wonderful thing in itself. But yeah, a lot of women with endometriosis don't even get that. And it's just something to be aware of if you're trying to get pregnant. If you haven't been diagnosed and you might have some of the symptoms that he talked about there, go and get yourself checked. And that way they can treat it and give you your best chance of getting pregnant.
Absolutely.
Did either of you ladies suffer from anything like that?
No, I had a couple of ovarian cysts, which are very painful. But no, I did not have endometriosis.
All right.
Yeah,
Well, that's actually, sorry, Mick. Go.
I was going to say I'm with Eileen. I had a couple of ovarian cysts, but nothing to it just hurt. Yeah.
Well, that's what we're going into now. We're going into ovarian and cervical cancer. Cysts aren't cancer, of course, but they're the precursor of it. So let's watch the first video and see what the symptoms are.
Hello, I am Dr. Poonam Patil, working as medical oncologist in Manipal Hospital here in Bangalore. Cervical cancer may come with many symptoms and a woman has to be observant of these symptoms. Most commonly is vaginal bleeding, which may be more bleeding during menstruation, it may be intermenstrual bleeding, it may be postmenopausal bleeding, or sometimes it's even bleeding during sexual intercourse. Sometimes they also present as white discharge per vaginum or a foul-smelling discharge, and rarely it may present with no symptoms at all. It may just cause pelvic pain, that is lower abdominal pain, or pain during defecation or pain during urination, which may mislead the woman, and hence one has to be very observant of all these symptoms.
All right, ladies, this is a women's thing, so please talk.
There's, once again, we have early warning detection system for cervical cancer, and that's a simple pap smear test, which doesn't hurt. It might be a bit uncomfortable. You lose all presence of dignity, but hey, you know.
Well, the male
It's
equivalent is a
important.
finger up the bum. So.
Well, trust me, this is worse. Imagine, no, let's not
This
go
is
there.
not much fun. I tell you what, you know, the envelope used to arrive in the mail, and you'd get an envelope that was an OHMS envelope, and I'd sit there and go, "Oh crap, I've got a speeding fine," or like I've been caught in a camera. I open the damn thing up, and it's like, "Oh, your pap smear's due," and I go, "Can I swap this for a speeding fine?" So I'm like, oh. Luckily, I had to go back. So I don't know if contraception is one of our topics, but I have a Mirena, which is an IUD, and I get it changed every 5 years, and I have it done under like a very light general anesthetic. So my doctor's just awesome. She goes, "Well, while we're there, we'll do your pap smear." I'm like, "Thank you." So
you're out of the world for it. Yeah.
If I don't have to know about it, I don't want to.
So I hit the jackpot this time, and it was like, yippee, you're going to do that while I'm out to it. That is fantastic. Thank you very much. So yeah, that was good. Now with cervical cancer, I don't know how much this was interesting. Went back in 2014. So I had finished no more children. I was completely done. But I still have very, very painful menstruation. Ghastly. Awful, and it was quite debilitating. And so I would have a Mirena, which was an IUD contraceptive, but I was like, I don't want to have any more kids, and I'm very fertile, hence the 6 pregnancies, and I would fall pregnant very easily. And there'd been studies come out that showed that so cervical cancer and ovarian cancer, the cancer more often started in the fallopian tubes. That's where it started, and that was where they had found it. So in 2014,
we actually have a video about that later on.
Oh, did I jump the gun? Well, I've had mine removed in 2014. I had the fallopian tubes removed as a precaution, and that way it was also permanent contraception. Never going to have any more kids, which was fantastic because I was old enough then to not want any more, and also a cancer preventative. So yeah, I've had that, and that's good. And then I still have my Mirena, and then yes, every few years it's the pap smear. But I think I've been given a clear for 5 years on that, so yay.
Awesome.
Yeah, so that was good.
I didn't realise IUDs needed to be changed every 5 years.
Yes, they do. Because they become ineffective.
Yeah, they don't last forever.
No, I think I got my first one. I think I'm on to my 5th or 6th now. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And that's been fantastic because taking a pill is, I don't always forget, but because I obviously have epilepsy medication, but it's just one less thing to ever worry about. And because if you forget one, the consequences can be quite permanent.
Well, yes, but I hope this is an appropriate question. But if you don't have fallopian tubes, why do you need an IUD anymore?
Because the IUD regulates. I haven't hit menopause yet, so I'm still getting regular periods, and they're still very painful. So an IUD, especially a Mirena, now it doesn't suit everyone, but the Mirena is the brand name, and it works very well for me, and it reduces or eliminates periods, which is fantastic. So I used to be debilitated for 2 out of every 28 days, and that's disgusting, and it's unacceptable, and I refuse to accept that anymore. I was like, no, I want to live my life. I don't want to be spending 2 days out of every 28 going, can I just die
in pain, in a ball,
in a ball, in pain, going, it sucks to be a woman. So I wanted to
want a sex change.
Yeah, I know. I was like, and then my husband would go, is there anything I could do? And I'd go, go away and leave me alone.
And I can tell you what he felt, because he obviously loves you, but he's getting that from you, and it's hard to feel that's a good thing. Yeah.
And I didn't feel happy because I was miserable and cranky, and I hated the entire world, and I hated myself, and I was like, and I was in pain, and I went, this has got to stop. So as soon as I was, old enough, and I was done with this, and I was like, yippee! So I still have my Mirena, and I probably will need one more before menopause. So in another 5 years, I'll get another one put in, and then that'll be it. I'll be done. But it's honestly, it's been life changing. I've loved it, and with my daughter, she is 16 and on the pill, but I did suggest to her if she ever decided that she wants to do this, because she unfortunately has inherited that same kind of nastiness in periods, which is a bit of a shame. So I said, do you want to try the pill because it's less invasive? And at 16, it's a bit confronting to be going into the doctor's surgery and saying, here's a replica of your uterus and your vagina and your cervix, and this is what I'm going to shove in it while you're asleep. And she was like, yeah, no thanks.
God.
I mean, the doctor didn't use words like that, but I'm not going to mince words.
It's not something we talk about at research, isn't it? Yeah.
No, but that's basically the message. And she just gives me this look of disgust. And I said, how about we try the pill, hey? And she goes, yes, please. But I said to her, look, one day you're going to think this is the best thing since sliced bread. And she's like, yeah, maybe. But, I'm giving her the choice. So she's decided to take the contraceptive pill at this stage to help regulate periods. So obviously she's like all for, hey, can I have my tubes ripped out too? And I'm like, not at 16, love. No.
Yeah, not yet. Yeah.
Not yet. Sorry, moving on. Sorry.
Yeah, Bip, you got anything to talk about this? Not that you have to.
No, it's okay. I'll pass.
All right. So we might move on to a video that talks about how cervical cancer is diagnosed.
Was that the spoiler alert?
Hello.
That was the cue to Cypher.
I'm Patil, working as medical oncologist in Manipal Hospital here in Bangalore. Cervical cancer is the easiest gynecological cancer to be diagnosed in an early stage, and it can even be diagnosed in a precancerous stage. And most of the times it is the symptoms that the woman presents with, and the doctor will then examine her and see whether there is anything in the cervix, and they often end up doing a pap smear. Pap smear is nothing but a liquid cytology test which looks at the scrapings of the cervix, and these scrapings are then examined under the microscope. So this is a very simple office-based test, and it can detect not only cancer, but it can even detect precancerous cells. There's another test known as Hpv Detection Test. Now we know that human papilloma virus infection predisposes to cervix cancer. So this HPV test also can be done, and if somebody is tested positive for this HPV test, it doesn't mean that they have cancer. It just means that they are more prone to develop cervix cancer. So if the HPV test turns out to be positive, they have to be very regularly going to the gynecologist for a follow-up. If any of these pap smear test and HPV test both come positive, then the next step is to do a colposcopy and a pelvic examination, and if there is any growth identified, then a biopsy is done, and it is this biopsy which is the confirmatory diagnosis of cancer of the cervix.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Poonam. Colposcopy, that's a name I haven't heard before. Is that basically a pap smear? Hello?
I've only ever heard it called a pap smear, but maybe, yeah.
That's the official medical term.
Maybe.
Yeah, so again, it's not something I can really talk about.
Well, you just, be glad you don't have to have one. They're not exactly fun.
Well, yeah.
Something to ask the doctor next time you see them, maybe.
Yeah, maybe I should ask the doctor about it.
Always ask a doctor.
Ask him, say, I don't know, I'm assuming here that your doctor is a male.
And once again,
can I have a look at your scapula? Is it the scapula?
The scapula.
Scapula? Yes. And then he'll probably go, ooh, you're creepy.
Wait, no, the speculum? No, it was the speculum. Yeah, speculum. That was the one.
Speculum.
I had to think twice.
Oh my God. Is it a scapula? That's like a bone, isn't it?
Yeah.
What is?
That's your shoulder bone.
See, we are not doctors. Ask yours instead of us. We don't know. We don't know jack shit. Clearly.
So I've just outed myself as a complete ignorance when it comes to this. A speculum. That's it. Oh my God. And all I know is that it's bloody awful. You'll see it and you go, God, you're not shoving that up me, are you?
Well, yeah, apparently. And apparently it was designed by a man, so.
Of course it was.
Yes, of course it was.
A lot of gynaes are now. A lot of gynaes are now women, so you think they would have corrected it by now if it really was wrong. But yeah.
No, it actually does do the job. It's like, oh my God, could you warm that thing up?
Oh, yeah, I was just going to say, as long as it's warmed up.
Yeah, it's not exactly the most elegant of things, and you're glad you don't have an audience when you go.
I hope they cleaned it afterwards, but yeah.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, they don't take your they don't take a cheek swab after with the same thing.
So one of the major advancements in terms of treating cervical cancer in the last few years has been the development of a vaccine, which was developed here in Australia by, I believe his name was Dr. Fraser, who is a Scot, but seeing the Australian government pays him, I'll take him as Australian. He was Australian of the Year a couple of years back too. Yeah, and in fact, my cousin worked with him. My cousin's a chemist, a PhD chemist. And in his Australian of the Year photo, I had a picture of him, and my cousin was in the photo as well, which was amazing. Yeah, but so it's a wonderful thing that we've got this vaccine now that can treat
the HPV
vaccine.
Yes.
Yeah. So that girls, my daughter received it from the age of 15, I think it was. So that not that I'm aware of that she's been involved in any activity, but it does suck that basically if you get cervical cancer, it's because men, but I guess it's viruses are opportunistic creations, aren't they? They
didn't your son get the HPV vaccine too? Because it prevents the warts, which then give it to the women.
I'm not aware that he did.
Hang on, isn't he around about my son's age?
I believe so, yeah.
17 something-ish? Yeah, because it came up in the schedule that they could have it in, is it grade 7, grade 8? I don't remember, grade 8, 7, something like that,
well,
I think.
If boys get it too, that's a good idea, yeah.
And the boys can get it too, because I remember asking the doctor, I'm like, just a question, my son doesn't have a cervix, so why does he need this vaccine? And she explained to me, and I went, how interesting. Thank you very much. So it was like because it's because, he can catch it from a woman and then he can pass it on to the next. So they're trying to eliminate it at both sources. And I was like, great. Okay. Thank you. That was very, boys can have the HPV vaccine too. And I believe it is on the vaccination schedule.
Well, just imagine if every human on the entire planet had it. The virus would disappear within.
Isn't that Wouldn't that be good? Yeah, it'd be great to get rid of it. Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately, it doesn't work that way. But
well, you know what? They don't give it to us. Like I asked, do I need this vaccine? And they said, well, how sexually promiscuous are you? Mind your own business. But the answer is not at all. I'm been married for 25 years. So they said, yeah, you're
if you want to get it, you would have got it by now.
Yes, yeah. And they said, you're at no risk. So, yeah, don't worry. But, I'm the person that goes along to the doctor and says, what vaccines can I get? I literally am. I had a shingles vaccine last year.
Anti-vaxxers think you're mad, but yeah.
They do, and I don't really care.
Because they're mad.
Yeah,
well, I probably am mad, but I'm a very healthy mad. Because I had chickenpox at age 23, and that not that it didn't convert me. I was never an anti-vaxxer, but there was no chickenpox vaccine in the 90s, in the 80s. Growing up, there was nothing. And in 1995, I got the chickenpox, and I'd been married 3 months, gave it to my husband. And the two of us were so sick. I don't think we'd ever been sicker in our lives. It was
it's much worse as an adult. Yeah.
Terrible. We got the triple crop thing. It was disastrous. So then the doctor, I said, is this likely to happen to us again? He said, not really. It's not likely because you've had a full dose of this. He said, but you could get shingles. And I said, what's that like? He said, far worse. You can die of shingles. And I went, oh, no. And then,
good news.
Yeah, fantastic, right? So then last year, I'm talking to my doctor and they said, blah, 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 something about a shingles vaccine. And my ears pricked up. And I said, is there a shingles vaccine? Yes, but it's not on the schedule. It'll cost you $200. Well, I was like, take my money. And I got
that seems pretty cheap. Yeah.
Yeah, I was like, well, compared to dying, or because once you've got shingles, a vaccine was useless. You'll never get rid of the virus. You've got it. So, when you have had chickenpox, it lies dormant. So the vaccine apparently helps to keep it dormant. Because I've seen friends who get it on their eyes and they've gone blind, or they get it on their faces. And you can turn your blind.
I had chickenpox as a kid, but I didn't realise it stayed in your blood. I thought as a kid, because your immune system was so good as a kid, it would have wiped it all out.
You won't get chickenpox again, but you can get shingles.
Mm-hmm.
So that virus stays, and that was a big fear. So apparently, well, I'll let you know if I ever get shingles. Well, no, it didn't work, but
well, for $200, I think I'll be asking my doctor if I can get that vaccine too. I didn't realise there was one.
Yeah, if you've had chickenpox or you've had the chickenpox vaccination, ask the question and get it looked at, because honestly, I feel so much better about it now. Mark Short says it was going to cost him $280 because he was under 70, and I said, yeah, mine was $200, I think, but I figured it was worth it.
All right, so let's speaking of vaccines, let's looking at immunising girls against cervical cancer.
From VOA Learning English, welcome to
and she's reading it slow because it's designed for people who don't have English as a first language.
Alliance is a partnership between public health officials and private industry. The group provides vaccines to developing
I was going to say,
countries.
flip it up to 1.5,
Recently,
siphon it.
the Alliance announced plans for an immunization campaign to protect 180,000 girls from cervical cancer. It has chosen 8 countries to start administering the vaccine for human papillomavirus, or HPV. Most cervical cancers result from HPV. The virus is passed through sex. Seth Berkley is Chief Executive Officer of the Gavi Alliance. He says 1 woman dies every 2 minutes from cervical cancer. That is more women than die in childbirth. Dr. Berkley says an estimated 275,000 women die from this cancer each year, and 85% of the victims are in the developing world. He warns that without intervention, the estimate would reach 430,000 deaths a year by 2030. The HPV vaccine is given to girls between the ages of 9 and 13. It is only effective before someone is infected with the virus. If infection does take place, the virus may cause extremely small changes at the cellular level. A pap smear test, or pap test, can find those changes, but the test may not be available to women in developing countries. If the infection is not found, the cancer begins to grow and will spread. There are signs like bleeding. And after the cancer spreads, there is pain. The HPV vaccine will be administered as part of school programs in Laos and 7 African countries. The 7 are Ghana, Kenya, Madagascar, Malawi, Niger, Sierra Leone, and Tanzania. Dr. Berkley notes that efforts must be made to reach girls who are not in school. For VOA Learning English, I'm Alex Villarreal.
Yeah, so that sort of reminds you of why you need to get the vaccine if you haven't got it already.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm. And the thing this, your boys can get it too.
Well, you carry it. I don't think
I was just going to say.
No, I mean the vaccination. They can get the vaccination. Sorry, yeah. So certainly worth getting.
The
HPV.
No, that's okay. The HPV is a really common virus, and it's passed during sex, whether it be oral, whatever. Okay, male, female, both males, whatever. You know, the whole spectrum. So everyone is at risk of getting, and it's a 99% of cases. It just leaves your body with no, adverse effects or anything. But the most frequently diagnosed women are between ages 35 and 44, and it doesn't develop in women younger than 20. So, yeah, once someone becomes sexually active, it increases the chance of getting the HPV, which then in turn helps other cancers grow. So even though boys can't get cervical cancer, they can still have the HPV, the virus. I'm not going to try and say that again, HPV. And yes, and cause other, if it gets into your lymph nodes, or it will accelerate other cancers. So it's a big one, the HPV.
So I think we've done that one to death. We'll move on from cervical cancer to ovarian cancer. But just before we do, welcome to Colin, I see in the chat, and also Ilya Moon. Hello and good morning to you as well. Although it's getting late in the evening here. So let's look at the first video for ovarian cancer. Not much speaking on this one, it's just you have to read it. And the tough thing about ovarian cancer is there's no real screening for it. They're developing that stuff, and that's a video we'll look at in a minute. But yeah, it's the sort of thing that you've just got to monitor your body and make sure that if there's anything that you're suspicious about, then you should go to your doctor and talk to them about it.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
That is the one piece of advice that we'd recommend you follow, that we give tonight medically. Go to your doctor.
Yeah, ignore us on everything else, but go to your doctor. Don't listen to us for medical advice. We're not doctors. Go see your own doctor. So yeah, we might jump into the second ovarian cancer one straight away, video 13.
Hi, I'm Dr. Yashika Godesar. I am the head of the Department in Obstetrics and Gynecology at Manipal Hospital, Dwarka. September is a ovarian cancer awareness month, so let's talk a few lines about ovarian cancer. So ovarian cancer is a cancer which arises from the ovary. Females have 2 ovaries on the sides of the uterus, and ovarian cancer is a silent cancer which is usually undetected because there is no screening test for the same. 1 in 75 women develop ovarian cancer, and 1 in 100 have a high chance of high-risk ovarian cancers. CA-125 used to be for following the disease and for the prognosis of the disease. Few lab tests like CEA, LDH, alpha-fetoprotein and HCG are done for the same, but they are not diagnostics. Patients who come to us with early signs and symptoms can have a pain, lower abdominal pain, lump in the abdomen, and late signs and symptoms can be pressure symptoms. Most of the patients usually don't come with any complaint. It's just incidental finding in an ultrasound. They might be suffering from vague complaints like abdominal discomfort, bloating, gastritis, fullness, irregular bowel habits. So if a patient with these complaints come to a gynae clinic, we should be aware about the ovarian cancer and we should investigate it. Few people who are predisposed are the people who have smoking, who are smokers, people who have had a prolonged IVF infertility treatments, people who have had an early menarche and a late menopause. Usually this disease occurs in the later age group, in the post-menopausal age group, so that is the age we should be worried about. And more than 40 years of females, they should get their body checkup, yearly body checkup, so that they can prevent themselves from developing into a late stage cancer. Early stage cancer detected, there is a 92% stage 1 cancer be treated, up to 92% prognosis is good, prognosis is there. And it's the opposite for stage 4, like it will be 29%. So we should detect it as soon as possible so that we can save our females, our mothers from ovarian cancer. So early diagnosis saves lives. Yearly ultrasound, as we said, has to be done. There is a genetic predisposition to females, especially who have a female or other females in their family who have breast cancer, ovarian cancer or a colon cancer. Even BRCA1 and 2 and hereditary non-polyposis colorectal cancer syndrome is associated with the same. So all those patients who have these diseases in their home or are predisposed should get themselves investigated. Even if detected late or on an incidental finding, they should immediately meet the doctor and get themselves treated. The ovarian cancer treatment, usually there is surgery, radiotherapy and chemotherapy depending on the stage of the cancer. So prevent yourself from ovarian cancer and get treated earliest. Please don't be scared of ovarian cancer. If detected early, it is very treatable.
Oh, is it over? Oh, good. Sorry, it's I can't really hear it except from the stream itself, so I'm a bit behind. I heard her say that one of the major factors is smoking and a few other things, age in particular as well. Ovarian cancer is more likely in older women, especially if you have a late menopause, although I don't know how you define late menopause. Was there anything else that people, that's what I remember and what I heard on the stream, anything else about ovarian cancer you ladies wanted to mention?
No, I think I've said everything earlier.
I'm kind of glad that I don't have anything to say on that topic.
Yeah, ovarian cysts are quite common. I've known lots of women who have had ovarian cysts. It's pretty much an ultrasound is the only way to pick them up, though.
Yep. Yeah.
But you'll find it's related to other issues that you might have. Sorry, Mip, go.
I was just going to say it's just a little keyhole surgery most of the time for ovarian cysts, so it's nothing really.
Well, in the majority of cases, they're just
I mean, nothing as in it doesn't hurt for excessively length of time or anything. It's a quick, simple procedure that could save your life, hey?
Well, the majority of cases, they're benign cysts, but occasionally they're cancerous. So they need to be dealt with either way. But the next video talks about a potential way of detecting it.
Actually, before you start that, sorry to be a pain. I did say I could come on for an hour, and I've stayed for 2 because it's been fascinating. But I am going to have to go.
That's all right. Thank you very much for being here.
Good to have you, Eileen.
Thank you very much for having me. It's been lovely. I'm very pleased, Hugh, that that you're moving into some, really not normal kind of topics, that people might not like talking about it. But I think it's great that people can get to hear some different perspectives on health. That's fantastic.
Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah. We all have health issues. Health is something that is common to us all. So it's good to have a chat about it.
Yeah, and thank you very much for inviting me on. And I'd better go and chase my kids into bed.
All right, then.
Thanks
very
guys.
much for being on.
Have a good evening. See ya.
You too.
Bye.
See you, Eileen.
Bye.
All right, so let's have a look at the next video about if I remember correctly, it's about how they might be able to detect ovarian cancer more easily.
Ovarian cancer is the second most lethal gynecological cancer, responsible for over 14,000 deaths in the U.S. alone. Because there is currently no viable early detection screening for ovarian cancer, most cases are discovered in later stages, when the tumor is much harder to treat. Dr. Yang Yang at the Yale School of Medicine wanted to investigate a popular theory on how epithelial ovarian cancer, the most common and most aggressive type of ovarian cancer, may begin outside of the ovaries.
There's a new theory in the field. It's called tube theory. So a lot of pathological evidence showing it's possible a big part of ovarian cancer are from fallopian tube. So these cells travel from fallopian tube and to ovary and then form tumor.
Dr. Yang also wanted to explore another theory supported by numerous studies, indicating increased ovulation or expulsion of eggs from the ovaries can increase the chances of developing ovarian cancer. For her experiment, Dr. Yang injected mice with cancer-initiating cells, stained with the red fluorescent protein M-cherry, to track the movement of the cells. The mice were injected with the cancer-initiating cells in the peritoneal cavity, below the fallopian tubes. While all mice developed tumors, 15 out of the 39 mice injected with the cancer-initiating cells developed tumors in the ovaries. To test if increased ovulation increased the chance of developing ovarian cancer, Dr. Yang injected 24 more mice with M-cherry cancer-initiating cells and induced superovulation through hormone injections. These hormone injections increased the rate at which eggs were being expelled from the ovaries. All 24 mice that experienced superovulation developed tumors in their ovaries.
Her conclusion is supporting the theory ovulation, increased ovulation can have a positive role like promoting ovarian cancer initiation.
The results also support the theory that epithelial ovarian cancer originates outside of the ovaries. This lays the fundamental groundwork for potential early detection methods, which could save thousands of lives. Thanks for watching.
Okay, the very first thing I've got to say about that is what a great name Dr. Yang Yang is. I wonder if she's got a sister called Ying.
I'm still waiting to meet a Chinese billionaire named Cha-Ching. Sorry, that was...
Cha-Ching. Anyway, this is still a serious subject, though. I thought it was fascinating the way they did their scientific study there. You never see a flirt do something like that. And it's kind of... That's the way nature is. Nature's a bit of a bastard, isn't it? The one job of the ovaries is to produce eggs, and producing eggs causes ovarian cancer based on that.
You know what, Hugh? It's funny you should bring flat earthers and science up. I actually heard, and in regards to like the natural world and animals and things that live in it, I heard a Flurf say the other day, "Oh, don't be ridiculous. Nature's nothing like, you know, the brutal thing you're describing." I'm like, what sort of Disney movies are you watching? Because nature is absolutely effing brutal.
Absolutely. They've never been to nature, apparently.
No, apparently not. Or they've never watched The Grey. That was a pretty horrific movie where Liam Neeson gets chased by a pack of wolves through the wilderness.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, and that's not even scratching the surface of what nature is really like. Things kill each other and get killed all the time. And like we've got the coronavirus from nature.
Oh, and we got drop bears here in Australia?
Drop bears, yeah, the koalas.
And bunyips.
Tree and smack you. Yeah, bunyips. But yeah, no, nature is a very odd thing.
But I find it ironic that from that study, I'm not saying that study is conclusive yet, because this is just saying what exciting research is going on. But that study implies that the very fact of doing their job of producing eggs is what causes ovarian cancer. So
it's something that they can look at and, as they said.
That's the first time I've actually seen that. And being a hyper-ovulator, my daughter looks to be in a high-risk category, which is not a nice prospect to think of. So I'm really glad that studies are being done.
Thank goodness there are scientists that are working on these problems for us. that are much smarter than we are and, you know, can do the research and interpret the data correctly.
And the good thing about that is it might enable early detection to some extent.
As they
because
said,
they'll know what to look for.
Yeah, because
And
forewarned
you know,
is forearmed.
Yep.
Yeah.
What did they say? Thousands of lives could be potentially saved with an early detection system. Absolutely.
Well, as Mip
Thank
said earlier,
goodness
with
for
breast
scientists.
cancer, we do so well in Australia with breast cancer simply because we have good early detection systems happening all the time. So if we do the same for ovarian cancer, that'd be awesome too.
Well, the other big cancer that we've got to worry about here in Australia, both men and women, is melanoma, skin cancers. And yeah, my mum had a couple cut out just recently, a couple of years ago, from her back of her leg. But especially people that live alone, I give this advice: go see a skin specialist once a year.
Yep.
They will check your whole body, all your moles and your bumps and all your bits and bobs, and keep an eye on them. Then if you go see the same doctor every year, they know if anything's changed and can forewarn you again. And, you know, Mum found out straight away and it was, you know, cut out, no problems, you know, done. But being aware of being checked. If you've got a partner, easier, you know, you check each other's body, it's fun. But when you're on your own, it can be a little bit hard to see in some places.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I go to a skin specialist once a year as well, and you know, my mum had several things cut out of her. I've had a couple of moles removed, but since that was back in 2006, and since then I've basically had nothing happen because I get the check every year, and everything seems to be fine at the moment. So, but yeah, as you age, your risk of developing melanoma increases, of course. And it's just something to keep on top of. There's lots of things you need to go to your doctor for. Go to your doctor. If you haven't been to the doctor in the last 6 months, say, make an appointment tomorrow and just ask them about all these various things. If you're a woman, the women-specific things. If you're a man, look at the stream from last week, plus things like skin and that kind of thing. And just get them checked. And if you keep on top of it, do it once a year or so, or once every 6 months, then you know, if something does happen, your chances of surviving are exponentially better than they would be if you find it when it's too late.
Exactly.
It doesn't seem like a difficult thing to ask. It doesn't sound like a lot to ask. So,
no, and you know, I know a lot of you were saying last week, a lot of men, you know, may not like the prostate, you know, exam and all the rest of it, and you know, you can joke about it and things, but these exams are just so important. These tests, and you know, like the bowel cancer test, everyone sort of goes, "Oh God, do I have to do that? Oh damn!" But you know, yes, it's gross, but God, you do it, and it's your health, you know, and so every opportunity to have testing done is a win for me.
Yeah, my mother died from bowel cancer, and on my father's side, his father died from bowel cancer, so I got a double whammy in terms of family history. And I get myself done, well, every 5 years. Since the age of 35, I've had it done. And then I had a couple of polyps for a while, so it was 3 years for a couple of times, and then now it's 5 years again. But if you don't get it done, those polyps will develop into bowel cancer, and you're shortening your life. So just a little bit of inconvenience for one day, once every few years, and you're going to have a lot more life.
Exactly.
Yeah. It's so simple that I just don't understand why people don't do it. And your GP can guide you through it all.
Yeah, and the thing is, you know, your first road to the door is your GP. Your GP will then be able to say, this is the sort of specialist you need to see, or this is what you need to do, or, you know, and give you the best advice as to the best treatment or doctor that is right for you. And your GP, if you go to him as often as I go to mine, you have quite a good relationship and they know you.
So we might, we're almost at the end of this. We're 5 minutes over time, to be honest. And we've still got one subject to go. We've got 4 videos to have a look through. This is about depression and anxiety. Women do tend to, well, okay, I've got no facts to back this up, but if you're a man who's been in a relationship with a woman, you do tend to notice that women are affected a lot more by depression and anxiety than men tend to. And you know, we don't, as men who love women, we don't want to see that. We want to help the women be happy, and we want them to get out of their anxiety and depression. And I had a wife who suffered from depression, and I've got a daughter who suffers from anxiety. There's only so much you can do to support them, and you need professional help beyond that. The specific depression relating to women is postpartum depression, i.e. Depression you get after giving birth.
The baby blues, they call them.
Yeah, and my wife didn't have it for our first 2, but she did for our last one. And that led to other complications, but I won't go into that now. This first video we got on is on that, so let's have a look at that.
Here's another Thrive tip from Kaiser Permanente and Fox 12.
You've probably heard of postpartum depression, but you might be surprised at how common it is. If left untreated, this maternal mood disorder can be detrimental to you, your family, and friends.
Postpartum depression is different than the baby blues. It has a longer timeline. Postpartum depression can start about 2 to 3 weeks after delivery, and it can last up or go beyond 1 year after birth. It can happen to anybody. Women who experience postpartum depression can have symptoms of feelings of worthlessness, despair, anxiety. They can have difficulty sleeping, and often they're exhausted. And can be treated with either counseling, medications, or self-care strategies. It is important to recognize these symptoms, and if you're experiencing any of them, to reach out to your doctor or provider and get help.
It's also important to ask loved ones to help if you're experiencing postpartum depression. They can listen, help relieve you of your chores, and give you the time and energy you need for self-care.
And I think that's very important. If you're in that situation, your loved ones want to help you. And so let them help you. And go to your doctor, get the medication if that's going to help you. The doctor can advise you on whether it will or not. But your loved ones don't want you to be unhappy. They want you to be happy. And you've got to let them give you help. And I know depression is a chemical thing. It makes you irrational. It's something that's very difficult to overcome. But believe me, if people love you, they'll want to help you. And don't ignore that. It's something very important to take advantage of.
Absolutely. I can only agree with that.
Did you have any? Yep. Or?
Not postpartum, yeah, no. Mine actually started, a bit before that. I was diagnosed as a manic depressive. I was only 20, in my 20s. And so I sort of was already on the high, the lows, and people really don't understand that when you're on a high, you can, you feel like you can do no wrong. The world is just out there, go get it. But when you're really low, it's, call Lifeline. Sort of that's how down you can get. But like you said, you've got to reach out to family if you can. If you can't, there are so many people now, like Lifeline, there's Beyond Blue, there's, suicide prevention callbacks, and just some really great resources for mental health is, really vital. But after being diagnosed with that, my children were quite young, and a bottle bomb got planted at our front door and exploded.
Wow.
So that gave me some really hideous PTSD for quite a while, and ended up going on to antidepressants. And And over the years, you know, it just sort of balances you out so you don't have the really massive highs and the really massive lows. You're just sort of on an evenish keel. You know, so that's good. But again, it's a case of you've got to find the right level for you. So, you know, you at that point, you're at the point just whatever's going to work. You know, I will try anything. I found that I saw a psychiatrist and she was absolutely fantastic. But I also started doing writing a journal, and that's something that I've found that's really helped me is, you know, when I'm feeling something, whether it be really good or really bad, or, you know, I just grab my journal and just, you know, it doesn't just jot down your thoughts, whatever, you know, and you don't have to go back and look at them, but sometimes, you know, in particular, if you're having a really shitty day, you can go back and think, oh, it's going to get better. It was like that 2 years ago. Look at how much fun I was having, and get back to that. So journals can be really useful in that aspect. And I found that a really huge help for me, but also mindfulness. It sounds crazy, but mindfulness is a huge thing with anxiety and depression. It's meditation and things like that, really helpful.
I don't really want to stop you, Mip, but we will cover those in the video after this one. Let's just have a look at what anxiety is all about.
Cool.
Everyone experiences stress and anxiety from time to time. They are natural reactions to stressful situations. For example, taking on extra work, speaking publicly, having relationship difficulties, or attending an incident. For most of us, the feelings of stress and anxiety pass once the stressful situation has passed. But for some people, around 1 in 4 Australians, the anxious feelings don't go away and become difficult to control. They feel anxious or fearful for no particular reason, which may start to impact on their ability to function day to day. This is known as an anxiety disorder. Let me go through some of the most common anxiety-related disorders. Generalised anxiety disorder is where a person feels anxious and worries excessively on most days over a period of at least 6 months. Panic disorder stems from a feeling of high anxiety, often accompanied by a feeling of excessive fear. Recurrent panic attacks are considered a panic disorder. Other anxiety disorders include specific and social phobias. Specific phobias include travelling on a plane, heights, or going near an animal. Social phobias include speaking or eating in public, feeling embarrassed or humiliated in everyday situations. Obsessive compulsive disorder is characterised by repetitive thoughts and behaviours, such as constantly washing hands or clothes, or checking the doors and locks. The symptoms of anxiety can often develop gradually over time. It's important to be familiar with the symptoms and keep a lookout for the warning signs, such as excessive worry about common problems, increased heart rate, sweating, feeling apprehensive and tense, increased irritability and sensitivity to criticism, unable to finish work projects, difficulty concentrating or making decisions, not being able to sleep, increased use of alcohol and drugs, feeling overwhelmed and unable to cope, and obsessive thinking and compulsive behaviour. If a number of these symptoms persist throughout the day and interfere with your ability to manage at home and work, consider seeking help from a doctor or psychologist. CFA also has a number of confidential support services you can access, such as peer support, the Member Assistance Program, Chaplaincy Program, and Heads Up, an online toolkit. Remember, mental health issues shouldn't be ignored. If left untreated, they could develop into a more serious mental illness. Take the time to find out about mental health so you can better understand your own risk factors, recognise the warning signs, and take action. For more information about how CFA can help, Visit CFA online today.
So for those who don't know, the CFA is the Country Fire Authority in Victoria, a state of Australia. So obviously they're well acquainted with feelings of anxiety and being through traumatic situations. They'll not only bushfires and things like that, seeing people burnt in houses and that kind of thing, but they're also scraping people off the road and all sorts of traumatic situations. And they're kind of people we're really glad that they actually want to do that job because it wouldn't get done otherwise. But they put themselves through a lot so that they can do that job, so the rest of us don't have to. But yeah, they know their stuff about mental health, and they need to look after their members, and that's good advice. All of that about anxiety. Anyone want to talk about it?
Oh no, I'm in agreement. Yeah, sorry.
I totally agree with it. One thing that I would like to mention that's a big part, especially with ex-police or army with PTSD and things, and that's
AMBOs.
And AMBOs, yeah. The importance of having pets or animals in general. There's a Facebook group that I'm going to get the link for, but because my computer's playing up, I will get it for you, Hugh, to pop in the description. It's called The Path of the Horse, and it's all about animal therapy, and in particular going and riding horses and other animals, going and having a dog and just being able to cuddle it for an hour. It's quite amazing what an animal can do for a person.
Yeah, I mean, I've got Artie and Brera. Artie's more of a guard dog. He has that sort of attitude, but Brera is such a sweetheart. She's a bit of a tart. She's just so friendly and everything like that. And I can imagine that when she's a bit older, she'll be sitting in my lap and just sort of licking my hand, because that's the way she gives kisses. And no matter what happens in the rest of the world, I know I can come home to Brera and she loves me.
Yeah, I
that's
totally
a big
agree.
thing. That's a big thing. That means a lot to a lot of people.
Yes.
That's why they try and get pets for older people who live alone, so that they've got some company and get some affection.
Yes. And there's, the wonderful things that some RSPCAs, I know the one that's close to me, you could go in and pet dogs and play with the cats, or, you don't have to be going in there to buy something or to, get a pet full time. But just being in and being able to touch and cuddle and pet an animal, it can make the world of difference to so many people. And like you said, Hugh, I've got my ferret, and I don't know what I would do without her. I would have no reason to get up in the morning. Is probably how I'd feel.
Yeah.
She's my whole life at the moment, but soon it's going to be my grandchildren.
Well, yes. Well, to some extent, it's the same for me. I mean, it gives me a reason, because I have to feed them in the morning. It gives me a reason to get out of bed. But I usually get out of bed and watch all the American YouTubers and their videos. It's the first thing I do in the morning, and catch up on that.
Don't know what I'm going to do. A little bit more active than that in the morning. It's out of the cage and it's just tearing around the house for at least half an hour to an hour. And ferrets are very, very active. But then she goes to sleep and it's just, 20 hours of bliss.
Well, as long as you don't wear trousers, I guess.
No, trousers are good. You have them tucked in, though, to your socks so that
yes, you don't get a ferret up the trousers, yeah.
Yeah, but anything, any skin that's out, not covered, it's, fair game to her.
Mm-hmm.
She doesn't bite me on the hands because I'm the hand that feeds her. Every other part of my body is still fair game, but hey, she plays rough.
So we've got a video now about the 7 types of anxiety disorders, which I thought was worth a look. The CFA guy went over some of them, but this Psych2Go site is a really good site. So I recommend you go and have a look at that. But let's look at this video.
Do you find yourself feeling stressed out when you're studying for an important exam or when you're practicing repeatedly in front of a mirror before a presentation? It's perfectly normal to feel stressed out or anxious every now and then. Unfortunately, for some of us, our anxiety can get so out of hand that we feel this way constantly. That chronic feeling of anxiousness and fear is the marking of an anxiety disorder. Before we begin, we'd like to make a short disclaimer. Please don't use this video to self-diagnose. If you can relate to most of the signs, we do advise you to go to a qualified mental health professional for proper diagnosis.
Good advice.
With that being said, Psych2Go presents to you the 7 types of anxiety disorders. 1. Generalized anxiety disorder, also known as GAD. It's the most common among anxiety disorders to be diagnosed. People with GAD suffer from intense and persistent worry. A GAD sufferer can worry or feel anxious about a number of events, ranging from school or work to their family life at home. This anxiety is associated with at least 3 of these symptoms: restlessness, fatigue, difficulty concentrating, irritability, muscle tension, insomnia, or difficulty falling asleep. People with GAD often can't explain their anxiety using specific fears, like those with more specific anxiety disorders can. This is because their anxiety stems from various stimuli. Those who suffer from GAD can find relief in a number of treatment options, ranging from mindfulness meditation and brisk exercise to cognitive behavioral therapies and medications. 2. Separation anxiety disorder. This type of anxiety is more common in children than adults. For many, the mere thought of separation causes a high amount of stress. People with separation anxiety worry that something unexpected could separate them from their attachment figure, or that their attachment figure will abandon them. This anxiety presents as nightmares of being alone and a persistent refusal to leave their attachment figure. Kids with separation anxiety may be clingy and insist on sleeping with their parents at night. Children often grow out of separation anxiety disorder, but if it persists for 6 months or longer, they should be provided help. Adult sufferers may also find benefit from the available therapies. 3. Social anxiety disorder, social phobia, and selective mutism. Social anxiety disorder, also known as SAD, refers to the fear of public situations and exposure to unfamiliar people. SAD sufferers tend to avoid situations in which they're in the spotlight because they're worried that they'll be embarrassed or judged by others. The thought or the anticipation alone of an upcoming social situation can cause major anxiety-related symptoms like panic attacks or severe stomach pain. People with SAD may show signs of stress in these forms: little to no eye contact, freezing in place, running off, or avoiding tasks like eating in public. Children and adults alike can suffer from SAD, but some children with social anxiety may also have a more intense inability to function in social situations. Selective mutism is a type of social anxiety in which a child is unable to speak in social situations, despite being able to speak normally otherwise. Oftentimes, this problem arises at school or in the presence of strangers. If a child with selective mutism is able to communicate at all, they might only be able to nod or whisper. 4. Panic disorder. It becomes a disorder when an individual experiences panic attacks multiple times in their lifetime. Panic attacks are intense bursts of fear followed by a range of physical symptoms. These include at least 4 of the following: cold sweats, muscle stiffness or trembling, hyperventilation, which is fast, shallow breathing, lightheadedness, numbness, or the fear of death and/or insanity. The fear afterward of another panic attack sometimes actually provokes more panic attacks. More often than not, panic attacks are had in combination with other anxiety disorders. Therapy, along with medications, can help in handling panic disorder. 5. Agoraphobia. Does your local train station seem intimidating? Do you feel faint in a crowded place? Agoraphobia is the fear of public places. Anxiety arises because they deem them as too open or dangerous. It's triggered by fears like becoming a victim of crime or of contracting a disease or illness. Its sufferers coop themselves up in their homes where they're comfortable and familiar with their environment. Agoraphobes often become overdependent on other people to compensate for their inability to cope in public. Agoraphobia can develop at any age and can be extremely debilitating. Exposure therapy works effectively against agoraphobia in conjunction with medication. 6. Specific phobia. These are persistent and extreme fears about a specific object or situation and cause a ton of stress to the sufferer. Phobias can be environmental, like acrophobia, the fear of heights, and they can be animal-based or even situational, like taphophobia, the fear of being buried alive. Such phobias often arise due to traumatic experiences that cause people to make negative associations with these objects or situations. Someone who was clawed in the face by a cat in their childhood might have an avid fear of cats in their adulthood. In cases where exposure therapy may not be safe or applicable, cognitive behavioral therapy can be effective in changing a person's negative association to their feared object or situation. 7. Obsessive compulsive disorder, OCD, and post-traumatic stress disorder, PTSD. Yes, OCD and PTSD were categorized by many psychiatrists as disorders to be grouped with the aforementioned anxiety disorders. Recently, there have been new findings about these disorders that deem them both unique enough to be in categories of their own. However, this is not to suggest that OCD and PTSD are any less important to deal with. The common thread that groups disorders like GAD, SAD, panic disorder, and phobias together is that sufferers of these anxiety disorders experience future-oriented fear. OCD differs in that though there is anxiety felt in the sufferer's obsession, they are able to find temporary relief in their ritualistic compulsions. Unfortunately, for OCD sufferers, this means a life of cyclical ritualism that can affect daily living. Those who suffer from PTSD may suffer anxiety-like symptoms similar to GAD or even panic disorder. But PTSD is unique in that it's past-oriented. The sufferer suffers flashbacks that bring them back to the event of their traumatization. If you're diagnosed with anxiety disorder, it's okay. Millions of people around the world understand what it's like to suffer from an anxiety disorder, so you're not alone. Understand that every single one of these anxiety types is often treatable and manageable. Also, if you know someone who may benefit from online counseling, we've partnered up with BetterHelp, an affordable online counseling platform that you can utilize. They're constantly striving to improve their services and terms and conditions. The link will be in the description box. Did you find this video helpful? If so, remember to share this video with those you think might benefit from it. As always, thanks for watching.
So Cypher's back from the microwave. I'd say that unless you've had something like that at some point in your life, you're not a human being. That's part of the way we react to our environment. We have phobias about things that harm us, so that's why these things arise. It's where we take it too far, which is a very common trait in human beings, that it becomes an issue for us in our functioning of our daily lives. But it can be just a little thing too. Like the last 4 or 5 times I've gone for a bushwalk, and I love going for a walk in the bush, I've gone over on my ankle and hurt it to the point where I was lucky to get out of there in terms of I could barely walk. And I was walking on an injured ankle. And now I'm actually scared to go bushwalking in case it does happen again and I can't walk out. So that's what I mean by a little example, but there are certainly much bigger things like people who are abused as children by their parents, for example, both physically or otherwise. And that makes it hard for them to not only get relationships, but when they do, to maintain them. Human brain is a very fragile thing in a lot of ways, and we're shaped by our experiences, but only if we let those experiences shape us.
Absolutely. Absolutely. What scared me though with that list was I only didn't not have one.
Well, you're very human then.
I'm thinking, very special, aren't I?
Yeah, I also had a few on the list, but not nearly all of them, but a few.
Yeah, all bar one.
And there was, in fact, the agoraphobia and PTSD is. I think I developed an agoraphobic outview on life after a violent assault once, and I just thought about it, and the thought of going outside of the house freaks the shit out of me. but sometimes I have to do it. So if I know I have to, like particularly on grocery day, if I have to, psych myself up and then make sure I, take a couple. I actually overdose. I don't overdose. I double up my medication the night before I go shopping so I can, go out and do it. And I try to do it within half an hour to an hour if I can.
I'd say that's justified though, because those people out there are assholes.
There's a lot of them, yeah.
You don't have home delivery where you are?
Not from Aldi. Aldi doesn't do home delivery, and it's cheaper to go to get, like, I can get more groceries at Aldi for $140 than I can anywhere else. Coles or Woolies would charge $300 plus.
Well, the big advantage of wearing a mask is that it's less likely people will recognise you as well. So that might give you some comfort.
Well, I've been doing that anyway because of the crowd. Like, I know we haven't got any cases where we are, but I'm a type 1 diabetic, and again, that's something I'm paranoid about, is getting this bloody thing and, not going real well from it.
Yeah, it doesn't help, does it?
There is one good thing for females in regards to wearing masks. They're going to save a goddamn fortune on lipstick.
That's a good point. Yeah,
good point. And other makeup, you can't see it. Why paint it up? So, that could be a really big saving.
On makeup in general, I think, because if you're in a lockdown area, you won't be going out all that much, will you?
Well, exactly.
I permanently wear a mask to avoid lawsuits because people who see my face tend to drop dead.
Well, I was curious before when you said you'd go out bushwalking. I was sitting there thinking, I wonder what a walking mountain looks like. Bushwalking mountain, that'd be interesting.
Well, it's more of a roll than a walk, but yeah.
Oh, okay, gotcha. A rolling mountain even. See, that's even weirder.
Or bush waddle, maybe.
Waddle.
Okay, so I think we're on to the very last video of the night.
Yes,
so, yes, we can all get out of here soon. We saw this one last week, actually, but I think given the subject for this week and the women-specific things we've talked about, I think it's worthwhile playing it again. If you're suffering from depression or anxiety, here's some tips to help you care for yourself and come out the other end.
Everyone deals with depression in different ways. Some try to handle it by themselves, while others get help. We're not telling you that you can fight depression on your own, but there are definitely certain things you can do for yourself that could help massively. Here are 10 self-care ideas that you might want to try. Journaling. You might be surprised at how big of an impact this can have. Many studies have looked at journaling as a way to fight depression, and the results are very promising. Journaling forces you to reflect, and it helps you get things off your chest, even if you're just admitting things to yourself. Reconnect with a friend. Even if you have no desire to get out and talk to people, you should probably at least make an effort. Researchers have looked at the most effective strategies for dealing with depression, and actively participating in your own social life is a very beneficial tactic. Humans are social animals, so we actually need a community of some kind. Comfort food. Certain foods and diets definitely have a strong effect on depression. You could choose to go super healthy, and that definitely helps with your state of mind, but you might be surprised at the antidepressant qualities of various foods, including chocolate, which has serotonin boosting qualities. Tea and even coffee are actually great for fighting depression, and this is backed by numerous studies. Humor. You've all heard that laughter is the best medicine. Well, that might not be too far from the truth. Humor is actually a great way to deal with depression. Watch a funny movie, see a stand-up comedian, do whatever makes you laugh. Laughter releases endorphins and decreases stress hormones, among many other benefits. St. John's wort. Y'all know that antidepressants are one of the most common ways to deal with depression. These are special medications prescribed by professionals, but some might want something a little more natural. If this is the case, then St. John's wort is definitely an option. This natural herb has proven effectiveness against mild depression, although it won't do much more for severe cases. Physical activity. Sometimes the simplest solutions are the most effective. Time and time again, studies have shown that regular, rigorous exercise is one of the best ways to fight depression. Exercise releases endorphins, which are natural feel-good chemicals in the body. Seeing the physical changes in our body after a hard workout is a great mood booster as well. There's really no downside to getting a little exercise done, and you're pretty much guaranteed to feel pretty good afterwards. Bibliotherapy. Another proven method of dealing with depression is bibliotherapy. Although the word might sound complicated, it's actually pretty simple. Bibliotherapy is the use of books in therapy. This is probably one of the most popular self-guided forms of therapy out there, and it has a great track record. Usually, there's an initial consultation with a professional therapist, and then the patient uses a book to guide themselves along their therapy journey. The book instructs the patient on how to improve their mood, deal with depression, and conquer anxiety. One thing to keep in mind is that it's only recommended for those with mild depressive symptoms. Yoga. A few different studies have examined how yoga can help with depression, and they've come to the conclusion that it can be very effective. Some would say that yoga is just another form of exercise, but in truth, it's more than that. Many people describe yoga as a kind of meditation in motion. It can be spiritual in nature, and it can also be very introspective. The results speak for themselves. Meditation. Meditation might just be one of the oldest self-care techniques in history. People have been meditating for thousands of years, and the effects of this practice are well documented. The aim of meditation is to attain inner peace, which makes it a perfect strategy for combating depression. One of the most popular methods for dealing with depression these days is mindfulness, which is a type of meditation which focuses on being of ourselves, our thoughts, and the people around us. Numerous studies have examined the effects of this on depression, and it has proven to be quite effective. Put simply, it gives us greater appreciation of our own lives. Massage therapy. It's always good to treat yourself to a nice massage, but if you're trying to pursue a lifestyle of self-care, then you might want to seriously consider massage therapy. We left this method until last for a reason. Massage therapy is only loosely linked with decreased depressive symptoms. It won't cure depression, but it will decrease stress levels. And hey, getting massaged is never a bad thing. What are some self-care techniques that you do to fight depression? Let us know in the comments below.
And that's really good advice in general. Mip, you were talking about quite a few of those.
Yeah, the mindfulness, and that goes with the mindfulness is meditation. And I actually have a really good book that gives you step by step how to, how to begin, how to recognize that you've got to love yourself before others can,
That's good advice for teenagers as well.
Yeah, exactly. It's what you present is what the world is going to see. So, and I think that people with depression, well, speaking for myself anyway, you try and find ways of hiding yourself, whether it be physically hiding away or whether it be mentally having a mask or wearing a mask all the time because you're just too scared to show people who you really are, I guess. Yeah, and journaling is my other big one. Although when people say, next year's going to be better than the last one, I said, I've got 10 years of journals that would contradict that, but but Jesus,
no, but 11 years.
Take the cake. But yeah, 2020's just taken the cake. It's going to be hard to top how crappy this year was.
Yeah, but there is upsides to 2020 as well. I mean, you met all of us for a start.
Well, yes. Yeah, in the community, I saw you all being born. It was wonderful.
Mm. You're not only the queen, you're the mother.
all these great channels and, that have come up, especially Aussies, and, we're doing pretty good out here, I reckon. And
Well,
yeah,
that's
we're a
because
very
we're open.
lucky country. I mean, it's a cliche, but we are just so lucky to be here.
Yes, it's sort of it's why so many people in other parts of the world want to be here.
Well, exactly. But you know, and our healthcare system is one of the top, you know, systems, I believe, you know, as far as people that need the help can get the help, whether they have, you know, loads of money or not, the help is going to be available to you. Might cost you down the track or whatever, but you know,
It's worth the money, yeah.
Worth it, absolutely.
And I think that's a good note to end on, to be honest. In Australia, at least, there's help for pretty much everything. You should investigate it. You were mentioning earlier, if you're feeling down, there's lots of organisations such as Lifeline and Beyond Blue, and I'm talking in Australia. You'll have to look, if you're in a different country, you'll have to look into the situations there. But look, plan ahead of time. If you know that you're likely to be depressed at some point, look these things up beforehand so that when you get to that point, you know what to do straight away. You don't have to. It's not an excuse to delay it any longer that you can't find out who to talk to. And above everything, for all the things that we mentioned tonight, start with your GP. Your GP is your guide through this path to better health.
Absolutely.
GP will recommend you to other people who can help you with your health issues and look after you at the first level, at the very least. And yeah, start with a GP. Don't listen to your mate down the pub. Don't listen to Sheila at the coffee club or whatever. Talk to your GP, someone who actually has spent a lot of time studying medical knowledge and has had a lot of experience in dealing with a lot of people over a long period of time. And they are best placed to guide you into whatever help you need.
Absolutely.
Yep. Okay.
My doctor, you know, I live at my doctor's surgery just about some weeks.
He'll charge you rent soon.
Yeah, just about. But
so,
you know,
Mip, as our guest, do you have any final words?
I just want to say thank you very much for having me. And yeah, I loved last week's show. I got so much out of it. And again, this week, you know, I hope that everyone got out of it as much as what I did. Because, you know, there was some stuff that I wasn't sure of, and doing that little bit of research is just very eye-opening. And, you know, prevention and detection and prevention is the best possible thing to strive for. And, you know, luckily we have options now that we didn't have in the past. So all I can say is take what help is available, and any advice from your doctor, you know, really think about it and look into it.
Yeah, because the reason I've done these two streams is partly because of my own health journey, which looks like it's going to be better than I thought it was going to be, which is awesome. That's the best result possible.
That's fantastic.
And if we can help just one person, that makes it worthwhile. We all know of all the topics we've covered over these two streams, I'm sure that every one of us knows at least one person who's affected by these things. And so that helps us care for those people as well. And I'm sure there's plenty of people who have seen these streams who are the people who are affected by these things. So I'm hoping that we've helped you. I'm hoping that we've encouraged you to go and see your doctor and start your journey back to better health. And how it's so important for you to encourage others to do the same so that we can all live a long and healthy life.
Yeah, and I just wanted to say I encourage everyone that is out there that is too scared to talk to a family, you know, you're too scared to talk to someone, you know, ring Lifeline, you know, it's, or one of the other service, you know, lines, because just being able to talk to someone that is not going to judge you, is just going to be there to listen to you. And sometimes that's really all you need. But if you've got to reach out. That's all I can say. Don't hit rock bottom before you reach out for some help.
Yeah. And if you reach out to anyone, make sure your doctor is the first person, because at the very least, your doctor can guide you to the services that you need.
Absolutely.
And make you aware of them if you're not aware of them beforehand. Cypher, you got any closing comments?
Don't lick toilet seats. It's about the only thing I think I can say, especially around coronavirus. That's
it's a very
my
important
catchphrase.
message,
Yeah,
yes.
it's becoming my catchphrase, I think. Don't lick toilet seats, and go ring the, or at least, at the very least, ring the doctor if you think there's something you might need looked at. Absolutely.
Yeah, and that's not just physical things, that's mental health as well.
Yep, absolutely.
The GP is a good place to start.
Absolutely.
All right, so next week we're going to get back to the derp. Our numbers have dropped for the actual live stream for these two. We were doing quite well before that, but that's good. It's a message that needed to get out there, and so we covered it. That's great. And I've made for particular topics, I've made separate videos for that on the discussion. I'll probably do the same for this live stream as well, because I think it's important for people to know about this stuff. But next week, we're going to have a look at the nominations for the NASA Black Site's Nodell Awards. And we're going to look at why the various derpies got their nominations. So we'll be looking through videos
the final category has been announced this week. I'm looking forward to this. It's going to be hilarious. We've got our presenter for the big award too. So should I do that now? Why not?
No, leave it. It's a black site.
No. It's a secret. It's a secret.
Yeah. And
save it for the night. Keyboard falling. That's not good.
That's not good, no. So we'll also tell you how you can vote to decide who wins each of the Nodells. So tune in next week. Be the same time and the same place, same bat channel. Thanks to all my guests, Eileen and Nippert, and thanks to Magda, who couldn't make it, but hey, that's not your fault. If you're a woman, please get yourself checked regularly and talk to your doctor about losing weight or giving up smoking, blood tests, exercise, mental health, and so on. And if you're a man, do that too. Make sure that you're on top of your health, especially as you get older. I think that's about it for tonight. Let's roll the outro.
Yep. See you all later. Thanks for joining.
See you guys.
Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.
Yes. So there's nothing left to do but cue the...
You're despicable. Hugh Jarsz says.